This is the second half of the June 6th Hopeful Intensive Business Intensive Day. Okay.
Are you recording it?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that. That was so fun. Thank you
Did
for
you
telling
like-
me about it.
Yeah, that's a classic.
Can't wait to take everyone I know there.
She was, it's like you run out of people to show VIX to. Eventually, you showed it to everybody. So I had the luxury of
It was
having someone be so enthusiastic about some place I love.
What did you end up getting?
I got 2 meals because he told me one was very small. It wasn't at all, but they.
Yeah, none of them are small.
It was all it was fish, so there was nothing to with it. And then the little whatever those what were they called on the rice? Those little round meatball-y type things. I've been doing gluten-free for about a year, so. But
Yeah.
they had a lot of stuff there, so it was all good
Yeah,
that I could choose.
yeah.
Yeah. Yesterday I went to the impact of the hub on Mission Street where Ellen was doing the constellations for the Bay Area Society of Learning. Have you
Okay.
ever been in there?
No, I'm gonna be there tomorrow, as a matter of fact.
Oh,
I'm doing a Charles Eisenstein workshop tomorrow.
Who is Charles Atkinson?
More Beautiful World.
Mm.
He's kind of the leading guy on alternative economies.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they're sponsoring a day-long satsang of all things.
Wow. Well, I have
with
to tell
him on
you
the theme of
place.
alternative economies.
It's
I'd
so
love to know
moving.
more about alternative
If
economy.
you have tomorrow free, come. It's only $35.
I'm going to Montevideo on.
Yeah, that's right. You're leaving now. Sorry.
So I was going to say the place I just love this whole concept of shared workspaces and the impact, the hub or hub impact, I don't know how they call it, is so, it was just, I just think it's all great.
I haven't been there. I've been to other ones. There's the one in Berkeley.
The port, there's one in Oakland that several people I know do. And then there's one in Berkeley that I can remember seeing a few years ago. I'm sure it's doing well. There's such a lovely energy in them.
Yeah. The sort of
And instead of all
social
sitting at
entrepreneurship,
home on your own,
Yeah.
you're there with a whole load of people.
Yeah.
The only thing I noticed about them, because all the rooms were glass windows, so I could watch what everyone was doing from where we were, is, I'm impressed at the level of the concentration powers of these guys on their laptops, because I know if I was there, that would just be people watching all the time.
Okay, so we have Christina, everybody. So
Hi, Christina.
Hello.
There you go.
Hi.
Where are you in England?
I'm in Oxford.
Oh, lovely. Great.
Yeah.
I thought I was a matron at the Dragon School for my sins.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know it well. I don't know it that well, but I know it well enough.
Great. So I'm going to turn you back to look at me, but everyone's going to be able to see you. You kind of you're here now because you're big on the screen now. Excellent. So glad to have you. And now you'll be able to ask questions too. Actually, before we do that, since we didn't have a chance before, could you just share a little bit about your business for people?
Yeah. So about 9 months now. 9 months ago, I developed or finally synthesized a healing modality based on really my experiences since a teenager, which is when I got into energy healing. And that feels like it's what I'm supposed to share in the world. Before that, I mean, I don't know, I've worked in theatre, I tried to do coaching, I've always tried to have my business, but I've never really made money at it. I've never made enough. Well, I've made enough to support myself, but 10 years ago, I was able to live on £5,000. So Leslie, it's interesting what you're saying about Charles Eisenstein, because one of the reasons that I'm here at this workshop is because I got burnt out doing a business course all of last year, which was supposedly for spiritual entrepreneurs, but actually was about lifestyle businesses. I'd never even heard about what a lifestyle business is. and it's all about 6-figure, 7-figure, 8-figure, and this lifestyle that, you know, they talk, you know, I think I'm aligned with the idea of building your business around the kind of life you want to have, but the kind of lives that seem to be the model that they're selling is so opposite from what I've, you know, it's so opposite from what my idea of what I want my life to be has been since I was 16, you know, decades. So it's, and there's a particular business process, which is you know, lots of, it's launches, it's based on launching, and you have you know, you do a teleseminar, and then you invite people to have consultations with you, and then you know, and at the end of the consultation, you sell them, or, you know, you connect them to something that you can, you know, a program that you have that they might be interested in. And that hasn't quite worked with me. I look after my kid full time, and yeah, so about 2 or 3 months ago, I just suddenly thought, no, the gap between where this business course is trying to pull me, or I feel kind of pulled or shamed into going, and where I really want to be is really different. So I need to do something about that, and that's why I'm here.
Good. Yeah, no, the problem with these things is it's one size fits all.
Yeah,
And,
totally.
I mean, it's a perfectly fine model. I've seen it work tons of times for people. It's fine. It's a fine model.
Yeah.
It just isn't for everybody. And so to spend a lot of money on just one model yeah. And then it feels like a bummer because the model didn't work for you. And you spend a lot of money. So yeah, I recommend a slightly different approach. And then once you're in alignment with yourself about your business model, then you can choose the right coach for you.
Right.
Okay, well, glad to have you, Christina. Yay. And everyone can see you now, so it's kind of like you're here. Sort of.
Okay, good.
And it's got to be late for her, so thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm a bit of a night owl, so.
Okay.
Good.
And if you end up like having ambient noise, like children and stuff, just go ahead and mute yourself, okay?
Okay.
Okay, so actually, I'm not gonna write about this. I'm just gonna talk about this. So, part of my job is like killing all the sacred cows. Sorry for any Hindus in the room for whom that metaphor is offensive. You know, just taking a lot of the things that are very standard in the Bay Area, and I assume in certain circles in the UK as well.
Actually, the program was American. It was US.
Yeah. But this is we're in a different context now, which is that law of attraction.
Oh, good. Kill that one for me, baby.
Actually, I'm not going to kill it. I'm just going to adjust it.
Okay.
Because let's just start out. It's true. Where you place your attention, you will bring into your life.
Right.
It's a fairly simple thing. The one I always like is, do not go in the pothole. Do not go in the pothole. Right? We've all had this experience, right? It's a big one with horseback riding, which I used to do a lot more of. But like, you know, don't go into that muddy part. You know, you're like, don't go into the muddy part. We're in the muddy part. So what you place your attention on, you bring into your life. The problem with the law of attraction, and people who have a sophisticated understanding of the law of attraction do understand this, is that we're not always conscious of our attention. Right? It's not your simple conscious attention. I have attention on 6 figures right now. But a whole other parts of my system are going, I have attention on poverty, or I have attention on whatever, right? So it's not just a simple kind of a conscious thing. So here are the pros. When you're working with the law of attraction, when you've done your change work, it can create better flow, happiness, and ease doing the work. It's like, wow, stuff is showing up. things are happening. I'm getting new clients and I'm not working too hard to make it happen. This is kind of the law of attraction in its positive form. The downside is it becomes a fantasy-based expectation of having great success with little or no work. And this is what I deal with. People who misunderstand the law of attraction, they sit down in my office and they say, I only want to work, I don't want to do any work and I want people and money to just show up. And I go, and I'm really sorry, but I'm going to give you your money back because I can't do that for you.
Mhm.
You got to find some guru out there who says they're going to promise that business. It really is, it's often based on unconscious resentment and a victim consciousness. It's a demand to finally have the childhood we wished we'd had. Universe, take care of me. It's a perfectly understandable childhood desire,
Wow,
right?
okay.
It's perfectly understandable. The little kid was desperate to be taken care of.
So that's it, okay.
When it comes at it in a really heavily asserted way, the law of attraction itself is not based in this. This is a distortion,
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
the extreme version of the law of attraction when I literally have clients show up with fantasy-based requests. Get my consciousness correct so that I can win the lottery tomorrow.
Yeah, because Tony Robbins does say you can do that. He's quite clear.
Well, I think that there's kind of an extreme magical version of it that's true. But us are living on, we're like blue collar consciousness people. We really are.
But I can also say that there's certain types of wealth and success that can come to you, not because you're sitting doing nothing and you want that.
Right, so
But you're-
listen to what my original prose was.
Yeah.
When you've done your change work, you can create better flow, happiness, ease of doing the work. Things show up, stuff
Exactly.
happens.
Exactly.
So this is the prose side of it.
Yeah.
And this, I don't want to brush the law of attraction with too wide a brush.
Right.
It's just that when I cannot tell, and the only reason why I bring it up is because I have at least 20% of my business clients are living in a misunderstanding of the law of attraction.
Okay.
And they really, really just, and so I start doing business coaching, like, how's your marketing going? And they're like, I don't want to do marketing. Okay. How are people going to find you? The universe will just send them. Oh. So when it gets that over asserted, you can just dollars to donuts. You can just assume we've got a kid who didn't get to be a kid in some fundamental kind of a way. That it's the lost experience of reaching up to be, to not have, you've seen it a million times on the street. Mom and dad have been hiking or walking and the kid doesn't want to friggin' walk anymore. And they reach up and either mom or dad doesn't or doesn't, depending upon how tired they are or how big the child is. But in a situation in which the child chronically couldn't be taken care of, there can still be this universe take care of me assertion. Just take care of me, just take care of me. It tends to be very angry. If you scratch it a little bit, it tends to be pretty angry. And again, really understandably so. And so for those folks, I do have to shift into a conversation. We need to do some childhood healing here. Now,
I do.
But there is another way to get to it. And this is the reframe. The alternative is, what would it be like to have a business that has dignity, weight, and authority? This is the adult experience. The dignity that comes in the experience of building and creating something over time. This is
Can you repeat that question again, please?
I probably can't.
What would it be like to have a business?
Dignity, weight,
Based.
authority.
Yeah,
Yeah.
On dignity. What was the next one?
weight and authority.
Oh,
Weight and
weight and
authority.
authority. Thank you.
It's a grown-up experience. So I was getting to this before on the issue of momentum versus getting stopped, right, and not being able to move. This is the other angle on momentum. It's the pride we get to look back and say, I created that. I made that. I didn't know how to do it, but I learned and I applied some effort and I made that. It's, again, if we want to appeal to the childhood experience, the pride in putting the blocks up or handing the painting to the parents. I made that. Or even the littler kid who like, I'm making mom get the spoon again. Making mom get the spoon again, right? This is a great, you feel your power. You feel your power in the world. So creating a business can be part of this. And when we want to sidestep the process by having the universe just manifest the whole thing for us, we don't get to have that experience. And it's got dignity, it's got weight. I'm going to talk about weight more in a moment. And we come back to what I said before, is that action and accomplishment is itself healing. When we create something, so there's like 15 million ways to do healing. One of them is by creating things and being able to say, wow, I'm the kind of person who makes stuff. I can create things. And usually with that reframe, people who have a tendency to kind of want the universe to just manifest the whole thing for them, begin to there may be something in it around the overtime experience of creating it and growing and learning myself. And then it's your thing. It's really your thing. I mean, what I've created in my business, it's like nobody else's business. I can tell it's Leslie's business.
Right.
And what I've created is mine.
And there's a sort of gestation sense period to it.
There are many gestations in the beginning,
cycle.
and then there's another one, and then there's another one. There's always more gestations. Unless you're like, yeah, I'm happy the income's coming in regularly, no more growth, I like it like this. As we all know, economically, that's probably not a great plan. But sometimes, you've got a good enough business model that you created and it just seems to produce. But it's basically what Christina was talking about. She's created a modality. Yeah? She gets to kind of enjoy, I created this. Wow, I made this thing. Huh. I do want to say a little bit about this notion called weight. This is a really, really important notion. Susanna probably knows a little bit about this. I hope they've gone over this in some of your trainings. It's not talked as much about in constellation contexts as it should be. It's something that Bert came up with and hasn't talked a lot about since. But it is really, really useful. So weight is similar to, say, authority or wisdom or maturity, but it's not exactly the same. It is a different category. Weight is something you mostly accrue by time on the planet, so to speak. How old you are. So by its very nature, a 95-year-old has more weight than a 2-year-old. Okay? Bert has discovered that there are some other categories that also give you more weight. So, suffering. Whoops. I'm sure you can have a feel for that. The people who've had great suffering, the weight that they have. Responsibility for others' lives. Have you ever felt the weight of a 23-year-old EMT kid who showed up and really took care of the scene? There's a certain weight there. Being a parent, especially a mother, actually having the child in your womb gives you a bit more weight than being the father, but both roles give you more weight. Working with the earth or manual labor.
This is so true. I mean, you can,
Yeah.
every single case.
Yeah.
I was driving home the other day, and I've got a clunker, so we're going slowly, and a truck, pickup truck went by of some gardening guys, maintenance guys, and I watched them go by, and I thought, those guys understand work day in, day out.
Mm-hmm.
Even though we're passing on the freeway, I could feel that energy, and I thought, that's what I need to bring to my work.
Right.
That consistent.
Right, and you can see it is not the same. I said it's like sort of like wisdom or maturity or authority, but they're not. None of them. It's a different category. Yes. There's overlapping sets there sometimes, right? Right. Mm-hmm. So Obama has a lot because he has huge responsibility for others' lives. He's also a father. He has a bit of suffering by being a black man in America, although an upper class one with, for a good chunk of it, with a fair bit of privilege. Moderate time on the planet, less than me. Isn't that a shocker? The first time there's a president who's younger than you.
How old is he?
He's like 50-ish.
Is that all?
Yeah. Yeah. He may be a year or two older than me. He's early 50s at most. He was elected in his late 40s.
Okay.
And I don't think he's done much in the way of manual labor, right? So you can sort of feel where he gets his weight from.
Yes.
Yeah. There are people in positions of great authority, who don't have tons of weight, and people with lots of weight who aren't in positions of great authority. Although, if you're put in a position of great authority, that will give you weight because there is responsibility that comes with it, generally speaking. Even if you're CEO of a company, it's not really for lives, but there's a certain, if you make the company die, a lot of people are going to lose their jobs and blah, blah, blah. So,
I'm reminded of an essay called Juniors and Heavies. It's on movie making, but it's basically a case of, you may have a junior with some grand exalted title, but that doesn't make him a heavy.
Yeah, and heavy, I think they're coming up with the same notion here. You can feel it. It's a feeling thing. Why am I bringing this up? Building a business gives us weight, right? And this is a good thing. I want to, Christina, have you done constellations before?
Yes, I have.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So you have a reference as well for this. Hopefully all of us have been in roles at some time or another. This is a very specific role, but it's pretty common, in which you're the parent in a dysfunctional family, you're the mother or the father, and there's someone in the room, the facilitator tells you this is your child, and you're like, what? Huh? I'm the parent? I got no responsibilities here. I got, and it reflects exactly what the relationships were like in real life. And then as the interventions are made and the resolutions arise and the system gets into better order, all of a sudden there's this, and it's a very pleasurable sensation. For those of you who have felt this, this is pleasurable, where you're like, oh, I'm the mom and she's the daughter. Oh, I'm worried about her. I'd like to support her. You can feel it coming over your body. It's this showing up.
Okay.
It's proper role and proper place. And as we grow in our business, there's the pleasure of this. It's not it's so hard, it's so much work. That's unresolved childhood issues, right? It's, wow, like the guys in the truck. This gives me dignity. This gives me weight. This is my work. Okay? Now, this isn't to say we want to overwork or make it harder than it needs to be, or we have to go. There's this whole thing about you're playing small.
Yes.
I hate that stuff. And the 6-figure, 7-figure crap. It's not that if you want 6 figures, it's wrong. That's fine. If that's an alignment for you, grand. it's the over assertion of I'm not going to be one of those losers who aren't six figures. I remember the killer for me was getting subject heading. This is after this, I unsubscribed from this lady from, what was it? I'm not going to get this right, but it was like from 6-figure burdens to 7-figure freedom. And I thought, give me some 6-figure burdens, please.
They say that the line is actually 50 grand at the moment, statistically. That below 50 grand, it's actually quite hard to live with ease financially.
Yeah, and
but after 50,
in the Bay
it makes
Area,
no
it's
difference.
probably 65,
Okay,
depending upon where you live.
right.
Yeah, and in Des Moines, it's probably even you could probably
45.
be at like 40, yeah, or something, and get by. And then, there are people live with roommates or whatever they do. They have different ways that they like to live. That makes a great deal of variability on that. But still, so this weight thing. So this is a difficult topic because sometimes this talk comes across as you've got to work harder. You're not working hard enough. And I don't want to say that to my clients because that is so incredibly unuseful. And yet, for a certain subset of my clients, there's this desire, there's this stuckness in childhood, to be kind of simple, that is going to make having a business, no matter how much change work with them, it's just not going to happen. And at some point, they have to shift into feeling good about sitting in front of the computer and working through a few to-do items, because it feels good. In a Buddhist monastery, what makes you feel good is sweeping the common area, washing the common dishes, making a meal, For self-employment, it's answering the emails and setting up some spreadsheets and setting up some infrastructure that works for you and making a marketing plan. And it's got dignity, yeah? And that doesn't mean we want to drop out our discernment about which pieces we like and which pieces we don't like and all that stuff, right? It's really pleasurable to create something like that. It's a nice feeling. So, a little exercise here. This is mostly from NLP, but you can see the overlap with family constellations, where there's this place where NLP and family constellations have the same insights with different languaging. But basically, you're going to make a timeline. It's not really a timeline, it's just a line. And on one end of this, doesn't matter, so you're just going to put out a card down there and down there. It's on one end, it's going to be you overweighted. Oh, I have to say a word about this before we do this exercise, sorry. So, in life, you don't get extra stars for having more weight. We don't tell the 2-year-old, oh gosh, you just don't have much weight. Right? Right? We don't tell the person who hasn't suffered, oh, you just don't have as much weight as I do. Right? What it is that what you want to do is come in at your proper weight, at your weight. Yeah? So, in my background in the church, often there'd be very young ordained people put in charge of struggling little parishes. Not much weight. Now, as long as they have the skill set and the gumption and the support, this is not a problem. The issue is they just come in at their weight, right? And then they apply the skills they've learned and they do their job, blah, blah, blah. But what almost all of us would do in that situation is we would seek to overweight ourselves out of a feeling of being inadequate to the situation, right? We've all been around someone who has felt inadequate and has been overweighting themselves. And you kind of just calm down, you're fine. Really, you're fine. It's kind of all you want to do, right? On the other hand, for a wide variety of reasons, we can underweight ourselves in certain situations. We may go to networking events and we go kind of invisible, that kind of stuff. The young teacher who cannot manage the class, even though they are 10 years older than anyone in the room, they've underweighted themselves. And we give them, credit, probably because they're under-supported and under-trained, and, the kids have big problems. But so they kind of become 12 with the 12-year-olds. So there's never a problem with how much weight you have. There could be problems with the skill set, the training, the match between you and the job, that is so. The weight is not the issue. The issue is just coming in at our proper weight and nothing else.
Yeah.
Okay?
That makes a lot of sense.
And your proper weight is good and proper for you. It just is. And it will continue to grow. Right? There's no use over asserting your weight. You just come in at your weight. Okay, so back to the exercise. I had to say that to make any sense out of it. So on one end, you're going to have a little card, and you don't need to write it on there. It's just going to represent this is a spectrum basically that you're going to walk. The overweighted, and this is going to be the underweighted.
This is so relevant to the sort of work I do, because it's so relevant to who I can support.
Yeah. And there are times when you're going to be in a room teaching a group of people, and someone in the room has more weight than you.
Oh, plenty.
This is not an issue.
Right.
Because it's not just the issue of your own weight, it's your authority, what you've been contracted to do, what your skill set is. That's why you're in the position. Hey, every once in a while, all of us have been in positions and gone, I'm not ready for this. That's a different issue, right? As long as you come at your weight,
Right.
the people who are, the 95-year-olds in the room who don't know what you're teaching them are going to be perfectly happy to receive that information.
In a way, you're talking a little bit about sort of authenticity or integrity with self.
It requires authenticity, integrity to be at your weight.
Right.
It's not exactly lined up with, because there are lots of other aspects of it. But yes, it's also feeling it. So right now, this spot is going to be your proper weight. We're just going to put it in the middle for the sake of keeping it simple. Right in the middle is proper weight. And what I want you to do is just walk back and forth, right? So you're just going to put a card right in the middle, and it says the universe, Susanna's proper weight, okay? So you're going to go underweight. That feels bad in these ways that I'm very familiar with. And then you're going to walk forward, and you're going to step on the proper weight, and you're going to go, oh, I know when I feel this. This is really pleasurable in this, that way. Then go to the overweight. Oh, these feels bad in a different way from underweighted, right? And just take a little time and feel who you are when you're overweighted, underweighted, and at your proper weight. And do end with the proper weight, because I want you to, this is a reference point.
Yeah.
This is a felt sense reference point for you. And I want you to really marinate in here. And then what you can do is you can step off and think about tricky things. Like for many, many people who are starting their businesses, the classic free consultation is a place where they go gaboingers on their weight. They think they need to overweight themselves, and they go, oh, and now they're asking the money question and how much it costs, and they disappear, all this stuff. So bring in after you've just done this in a sort of generic sense, you might say, okay, in the context of a free consultation, and then do it again and see how it all feels. Step off, bring in another situation. When I'm training in a group of people I feel not quite whatever with.
This company I was worrying about working for is a classic case for this.
Okay, so about 10 or 15 minutes to do that, and enjoy yourself. I'll be here. Ask questions. Christina, you can ask me too. I'll be right here.
Can we use your paper?
Yes, but you don't have to write anything on here.
Got it.
Just take 3 cards each, one for each end. Know which is which. Know which is the underweighted side and which is the overweighted side. And then proper weights right in the middle. And make the line decently long. You have a lot of room here. You don't have to make it really short. The longer you can make it, the more gradations you will feel. Actually, how about you just move a little bit over to the wall and you just be in the space next to the table. Just so that we can have two lines here. You guys can be parallel to each other.
I've moved your chair up and down.
Yeah, and I think Saul just did that right, to do the two extremes and then feel what the middle is like a little bit.
I started with heavy and got an immediate impression of half the people at work.
And remember, although you do it unconscious, this is something you do. It's your old safety patterning. This is ecology. Certain magical situations trigger us to overweight ourselves. Other magical situations trigger us to underweight ourselves. And then there's some where we're just right at our right weight most of the time. If anyone needs anything or has a question, just ask me.
Yeah, I'm having difficulty processing this, Leslie.
Leslie,
Yeah.
I've got like basically not massive, but anxiety. I started getting it from just beginning to start the exercise. So I've experienced slightly different feelings at one end and the other, but I'm keeping my eyes closed a lot of the time and then trying to open them. Yeah, but heart palpitations in all positions. So I just thought I'd let you know.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's obviously a safety reaction, right?
I guess,
So-
yeah.
Right?
But
Right,
it's
so-
for me because actually I realise how similar it is to how I felt a lot of my life. So then that points to it being quite young, doesn't it? Hold on,
Yeah, no, it's when we get fight flight, it's always childhood trigger.
right.
So not to answer now, but it's kind of a question for you to play around inside your head, is what was not safe about me being in my proper weight, or me even dealing with the issue of weight
Yeah.
in childhood. Now, obviously, this is not no child is going around going, I'm
No.
upset about my weight. But something in your family system around that. So that's what I leave you to. So what's dangerous about even approaching this question?
Yeah, no, that's very helpful.
Okay,
Thank you. I'm gonna do it in a context now and see what happens.
okay, good, go for it.
Can I ask you some questions?
Of course.
So my experience is that.
So as you talk about it, step off of
Oh,
it,
thank
just
you.
so that you can be
Yeah.
off.
So my experience was that I just actually experienced a lot of physical pain when I was on the overweighted card.
Okay,
But the rest of all of them, I really didn't, I felt very clear, if I can call it that. Nothing really
okay.
happened with proper weight, but especially with underweighted as well.
Okay, so have you used a context yet?
No.
Try a context and see if the feelings get a little crisper.
Okay, and the underweighted is when I'm not owning up to all of who I am. Is that right?
It's
having
a difficult
difficulty-
concept to grasp,
Yes.
but let's say it's just, you're just showing up as less than your proper weight.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
It's one of those things that you gotta grok.
Okay.
I'll give you an example.
Okay.
So you felt the weight of those guys in the truck,
Yeah, I did.
right? Which is nice. And then you immediately felt, oh, I don't have that kind of weight.
No, but I did, you're right, and I immediately.
Right, now that may be
wanted-
true, but I'm also curious about whether that's one of those insecure comparisons.
Oh, how would I find that out?
I don't know, I'm just asking the question. So just try a context,
Okay,
and the feelings make it a little bit more concrete for you,
okay, all right, okay.
So, and something really specific, like the free consultations,
Yeah,
or
I've got one very
something
specific.
really, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And in your proper weight, I'm gonna invite you to take your hands out of your pockets. There you go.
Basically, what I've been getting is back there, completely locked down, my skull is starting to hurt, and I'm immediately reminded of just a bunch of people who are at the paycheck, basically just stuff they do.
So what's back there, overweighted?
Yeah,
Okay,
just too much effort which is basically because they're all pretty much underweight, they're out of their depths. This one, the feet are.
wait, okay, I really wanna say, their weight is just fine, they don't have the skill set for the job they've been given. Let's be really clear
That could be one.
about their, or whatever, but everyone's weight is fine. No one's weight is a problem. You can have the most amazing job in the world with the most extraordinary authority and not have, you can be 20 years old and not seen much of the world. As long as you have really good training and really good expertise for the position, the key is, are they coming in at their correct weight? Which is not really high, but it's fine. There's no wrong weight, okay? Okay, so there, and then on underweight, what's?
Underweight, we're just coming up blank, blank, blank. Okay, let's try and do something as to say I'm just sort of sprawled in place. What finally came through was first, now just pick up the pieces. You've got the pieces nearby, followed by being very amused. Now I have to sit there and wait for a while because I'm training somebody else to.
Yeah. So mostly I invite you to notice, not to worry about other people and where they are at with their weight. Use this for yourself.
Yeah.
Is the most useful thing,
for,
yeah.
For a proper, it was basically the feet are planted and everything else is wobbling around all over the place because you may have to dodge whatever it may be, and you need the flexibility.
Okay, so what you're installing here is to be in your proper weight, you have to be in chaos. Please don't do that. Let's have you have proper weight wherever you go. Can you be in a nice calm meadow with nothing going on around you and be in your proper weight? Feel it in all contexts. This is, yeah? We want to generalize this.
Also in general, it's not so much chaos and moving, it's the feet are planted.
Right.
And then it's availability to be flexible as needed.
Right. And I only want you to notice that you're doing this line in a specific context. You're not doing it generically. You're regularly referring to your work site. It's your only reference point for this experience and the way you've talked to me about it so far.
Okay.
Right? So just make sure you have a generic experience.
Yeah.
So like hanging out with friends,
Okay.
Being on this BART when some weird people come on the BART, just a variety of contexts.
That was reminding me of them, the others not.
Yeah.
So, let's see.
How are you doing back here, Susanna? Anything you need to report in on, or are you just fine?
Good. Yeah. I think I'm taking.
Okay. By the way, I love those pants. Those are really cool. And just a couple more minutes of this. Is that helping at all, Victoria? Is that crisping it up a bit?
You know what I guess what the truth is, that's awful thing is, I'm not really clear what I'm looking for answers to.
You don't need, there's no questions. So all we want to know is what it's like for Victoria when she's underweighted. What's the experience, just like a representation. What's the experience when she's overweighted? And what's the experience like when she's in a proper weight?
Okay,
That's it.
I've got those.
Okay.
And in relation to the specific thing, I was asked to do some work at a university. And in one case I said yes, but in another I said no. And afterwards I thought, wow, that was a very fast nature. Why did I think I couldn't do it?
Mm-hmm.
Right, and I was expecting to find that I'd I was trying to find an answer on this line.
No, you're not going to find an answer. That's not the question here. No.
Okay.
So really what you want to just do, like free consultations. When I'm doing a free consultation, what is it like when I'm overweighted? What is it like when I'm underweighted? What is it like when I'm in proper weight?
So under I didn't feel much. It was okay, but I felt small.
Yeah.
When I was on the overweighted, there was physical pain.
Right, yeah.
And when I was on proper, I suddenly looked up. There was a rising, I was in balance.
Cool.
It just felt very expansive.
Lovely.
And round.
So all I invite you to do to wrap up is to go back into proper weight and really bookmark the feeling. Really let that get anchored. Everyone, the last thing you do is the proper weight before you end the exercise. Don't end the exercise with one of the poles. Actually, I have one more exercise for you once you're done with that. Everyone wrapping that up okay? Because I want to invite you to do something. Everyone stand on the proper weight spot. Sorry, Christina, I saw you were picking up your cards. Okay, so what I want you to do is notice that there's actually, this is a choice variable. I can overweight myself, I can underweight myself. Generally, we're doing this totally unconsciously, right?
Right.
Yeah? But it's still a choice, it's just an unconscious one. So go ahead, face overweight, face that direction, and then take just a few steps in that direction. Just notice what happens in your body as you choose to overweight yourself. Yeah. And then when you're ready, turn around and face the other direction. And then very slowly choose to go back to proper weight. Notice what it feels like in your body as you choose to do that. Isn't that pleasurable?
Yeah.
Now, let's do it in the other direction. Face underweight and choose to underweight yourself. I know it'll help. I'll just underweight myself here. This'll help. This'll make it better. And notice how that feels and what that does inside of you. And then go, oops, overdid that. And then turn in the other direction.
Doesn't feel bad.
But you're only going to die of coughing. And face in the other direction and take some steps back to the proper weight. And choose to go back there.
I'm living so much denial.
Just go, oh, this is a coffee place. Walk, leave that spot.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's really funny.
Isn't that nice? Now, again, just to notice that your choice variable about this, just go a couple steps in one direction and then back, couple of steps in the other direction and back. Just notice that this is something that you can, this is like, you have an internal dial, it's called the weight dial. And you get to set it. And just each time you go in one direction for a few steps and in the other direction for a few steps, just notice you choose to return back to the proper weight spot. Okay, everybody? Okay, pick up your cards. Come on back. Isn't that cool?
That was pretty spectacular. Do you know how many years I've been working with that cough? How much money I have spent on that cough?
It's underweighting. It has something,
It is.
it's somehow connected to that.
I knew it was in some sense my either having awake apnea or self-silencing.
Right.
Which is in fact what underweighting is in a way, isn't it?
Yeah. And we'll also notice that either direction is intended as a safety move. Right? To overweight has the impression of a safety move. To underweight has the impression of a safety move.
Right. Oh, that house looks so English.
Gosh, not quite so small a screen. Okay, so anything you want to share about that before we move into the next topic, which is about money.
Good.
Money.
Difficult to nail down, but I think
Excuse me.
I was definitely noticing differences.
Well, the main thing you want to notice is the reference point for the proper weight and how that feels. Because if you're capable of, you're in a situation where you're stumbling and you can go, oh, the proper weight feeling. You can anchor it in or something. You can do something, right? If you have an anchor stone, that you anchor it, do this thing and put it into a stone, so that every time you touch the stone, you feel that feeling in the middle of the line. put that worry stone in your pocket for important events. You know, training a large, difficult group or whatever it is, you're getting a little stumbly, just hold the stone.
No, all of this comes up for me around marketing and
Marketing, yeah, whatever the context is, yeah.
my actual work.
Yeah, good, yeah. This is, by the way, not uncommon for alternative practitioners and coaches. They feel pretty good when they're in the chair doing their hypnotherapy or their family constellations or whatever it is.
Oh, yeah.
And then it's all the business stuff. Christine, do you have anything anyone have anything? You were gonna say something, Susanna, and then.
Yeah, I was surprised, I don't know, there was some surprise about the proper weight. Like I was very familiar with overweight. I wasn't that familiar with the underweight, but it was quite clear. Like I just felt a lot of anxiety and just my heart really fast and something really truly not anchored there or something like that. But the proper weight, I had no expectation, or I don't know, there was just no image anywhere about the proper weight. And there was just something, I don't know, I just felt like I had a big connection above my head, below my feet. It just felt like the alignment. And I would have never, if you had asked me to describe what a proper weight would feel like, alignment would never be a word I would have said.
Cool. Nice.
So.
Nice. Christina, anything you want to ask or add in?
Yeah, I found it interesting because for me it was interesting because everywhere I was felt almost the same, just lots of anxiety.
Yeah.
But for example, I did try it on, say, free consultations, and I don't get the same anxiety or as powerfully as here. And anyway, and then the last thing was what I love about constellations is you can repeat the exercises just to burn off the energies that are coming off, so it feels to me like this is, for me, something really necessary to do over the next few weeks and days and weeks to burn out whatever.
Yeah, sometimes energy needs to unwind a little bit. That definitely happens. The other thing you could represent is the thing that makes the issues around my weight so scary for me.
Okay, yeah, I'll try that.
Information about that.
Okay.
So my guess it's going to turn out to be something for which the suffering has been over a long time, and you're going to find is a surprising source of comfort and love.
Okay.
Just slip it in there for a second.
Yeah.
I felt like a burst of really affection. So, okay, good. Okay, everyone ready for money?
Yes,
Money, money, money. Okay, so I approach money a little bit differently than other people do, as Victoria can imagine by now. This is where I start.
Leslie, could I borrow a bit of paper? I completely forgot to bring a pen.
Oh,
I've used up my little teeny book. Thank you. I've got a pen, thank you.
This is where I say, step into your bigness. 6-figure mindset.
7.
Money is infinite in abundance.
7 over here.
And then the phrase, what's that horrible phrase? God, I never remember. I'm no good at reclaiming cliches. The poor work harder for less of an outcome, and the rich know how to work less for more. Anyway,
Something like that.
it's awful. It's just awful business. Okay. So no, I'm not, and I'm also not going to go down the road that some people go down about money being neutral and just being energy. That's not completely inaccurate, but I don't think it's the most useful frame. So to start out with, let's just ask the question, how did money get started? Why the heck do we have money? So then we do a little bit of our anthropological history. And there was a time when there was the currency, in a sense, was you went out and you got deer. And you went out and you got roots and berries, right? That was, in a sense, the currency. It was sustenance. The tribe, in various ways, went out and they got the food they needed, or the firewood they needed, or the shelter they needed, right? That's what they did. But for civilization to grow, specialization was required. So that some people built the houses, and some people grew the food, and some people did some governing, and some people built roads, and other people were the musicians and the shamans and all that sort of stuff. And in order for the guy who built the houses to be able to have a sheep, he'd pay the sheep herder to give him the sheep. And for him to have a house, he'd give him money to build the house, right? And so money is really useful. It allowed society to differentiate and grow and develop, yeah? In a sense, for me, money is a representation or a symbol for sustenance. Right? And it's not the only form. You're breathing right now. That's a kind of sustenance. Your friends are there to listen to you when you're in pain. That's a kind of sustenance. There's all kinds of things that don't require you to have money to have it. But it's quite a large chunk of what we get our sustenance from, right? The thing is, so this is beginning to sound a little bit like the energy thing. Here's where I go really off about this, which is that money is always a cultural artifact, which for those of you who have your ears pricked up is to say it's systemic, right? And I'll talk more about that. Culture is always more than one person. It's people. It's a system. Money isn't some pure thing out there. It's not energy out there just floating. It is an expression of our culture with its beauty and intelligence and inspiration and its darker shadow aspects. It's going to be expression of us, right? Money is different in a communist system than it is in a capitalist system, than it is in a communal system, than it is in a guy out who's a hermit in the woods and doesn't have money at all, and has figured it out somehow. Money doesn't have meaning outside of its experience in the community. Which is why this nonsense about, money is abundant and infinite and you can have as much of it as you want is so, my apologies, ignorant. It's just ignorant. And it's a willful averting of the eyes from things like income inequality, the impact of racism, of different kinds of economic systems and what that means in terms of what you can and cannot have, accidents of birth, all this stuff, right? So I want to find a way that deals rationally with money in a way that allows all of us here to thrive and be and do well, that doesn't pretend that all doesn't exist. It's kind of where I'm coming from. how do we get to trust with money while not, just sort of ignoring the reality around us, but also, this is the other side of the coin, getting too righteous about it. Mammon is evil. Capitalism is a sin. There's so much darkness out there and all that sort of thing, right? Which is another energy that doesn't tend to support financial thriving. The other side of ignoring, the goal would be respect. What was the word I came up with? It wasn't respect, because instead of righteousness, you want respect. And I guess over here would be something like awareness.
Or attention, yeah.
Yeah, attention. Okay. So I have a exercise for this. If we have time, we'll do it, because I have a different exercise I want us to do with respect to all this. But the center of this exercise is to have two representations, one for you and one for the current economic system. Just the reality of it, which we understand is not just and is not the way we would like it to be. Yeah? But it is. It is the world we live in. It's made this room possible. It's made the internet possible. And we're in it, right? Yeah. And as we do in family constellations, we don't give things the finger, right? Because that's resistance. Resistance tends to shut down possibility, right? So the family constellations move is to have the representative for the current economic system, and we bow to it. And this is the movement that basically says you are. You are. I am in it. It's part of me. I am part of you. This is reality. This is the truth. It's like bowing to climate change or the atomic bomb. It's not to say we approve of it or like it or wish it were here. It's just to acknowledge it as a real thing here that shapes our experience.
So what you're saying about money is that we have to see it as something much bigger than the thing we want for ourselves.
You betcha. It's systemic.
It's just, I understand.
It's systemic.
Okay,
Yeah?
so we're inheriting money along with its story in the same way that we come with our story.
You
and our
betcha.
family.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
No,
Rather than
nicely
pretend.
restated in your own language. Well said.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
I wasn't totally, okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a very big different sort of concept to how it's offered to us normally in these classes.
Right, yeah. So it's, I find it's more respectful, it's more true,
Uh-huh.
and it actually gives us, what is it like, this is the I wonder question. I wonder what it would be like to have an adequately ethical relationship with money and be well
Exactly.
in a context in which the expressions of money are often not ethical
Right,
or are predominantly not ethical.
yeah. This really addresses the heart-based angst around money.
You bet.
Yeah.
You absolutely bet. That's why we need our eyes open,
Yeah,
but also not be in some righteous tip about
poverty,
it,
yeah, exactly.
right?
Yeah.
And these tend to be the two.
Yeah.
It's like, everyone, there's enough for everybody. There's just infinite I'm sorry, I don't buy the infinite resources thing, The planet is getting hotter, really.
Right.
It really is happening.
And fewer people are getting richer, yeah.
But the other side where some people go, I had someone in my room the other day, she both had the law of attraction distortion, and she had this problem, which is that everything about capitalism was evil. And I just sat there and I thought, I can't do it. I finally said at the end, I'm giving you money back because I cannot help you. There is no way in. That doesn't happen for me very much. Okay, so, because her system wasn't allowing any reframes on any of this stuff, it just wouldn't.
Right, she's not ready. She'll be back.
Or she won't, that's fine. Okay. So, this is the first thing, so this is the cultural piece. Yes, go ahead.
I just have a question about what brought you from looking at money to bringing in the trust piece? What was the link in your thinking?
I don't know what the link is. I think for what I'm presupposing is a goal that we'd like to trust our experience of money in the world. Like our experience, like it's going to come in at a good rate, that I will use it well, that it can be channeled for good, that I can be generous, that I can charge for my services in a way that's fair and consistent.
Got it.
That the people who come to me are going to want to pay me in a way that feels good to them as well. I mean, this could be things like saying, and this comes to the alignment issue, of saying, I want enough abundance in terms of money that I can solidly do pro bono work for some percentage of what I do, right? Which is what being paid allows.
Right.
Right?
Exactly.
If you're doing quote unquote pro bono with everybody, then you don't have freedom to actually be generous, really.
Right.
So it's that kind of stuff.
And that's
And
part
instead
the
of
boring.
being worried about the money coming in, being worried about being asked the how much does it cost question, being worried about overcharging, being worried about next month not having enough, or being worried, this is usually more unconscious, that I'll have money and I'll become one of them,
Right.
so to speak,
Yeah, that's one of my.
which is very common, but it's not usually very conscious. It's some people do have it consciously. Various versions of it. Or there's another one, money comes in just fine, but it goes out fast. There's another one, I can't seem to keep it in my bank. Another one is, chronic indebtedness.
I was just going to say, I've got chronic, generations of guilt over living pretty comfortably.
Right, yeah.
So
Right.
I have enough enters within that.
Yeah, so this is bound by your values, the alignment issue, whatever enough is, right? For someone it's 6 figures, for another person it's 20,000.
Yeah.
But within their value system, whatever that is, they feel trust within it. I mean, there was a really big moment for me when I realized my business was going to bring in enough, that I was going to be okay.
I can't wait for that.
Well, and here, probably before that, I got, given my socioeconomic status, I'm never going to be in a shelter. It doesn't matter what my worries tell me about it. I've got people whose couches I can sleep on. I have siblings who have a steady enough life, no matter how much they hate me, they would still help me out, right? This is that's my class, I have, because of inheritances, I have a certain amount of money in the bank, not tons, but I've got, So, but people can have that, and that's true about them. They're just not going to be the people who are going to end up in the shelter unless something really wacky doodle happens. And yet still they worry. They literally, pictures of being homeless on the street comes to their brain, and they look at it and they go, that's actually not real.
Right.
I've got 20 layers of safety nets that other people don't have.
And that's true.
Right? Okay, so trust. That's how I got there.
Mhm.
That's the goal.
I totally get it.
And in order to acquire this, we have to have kind of these two ends of the spectrum. Okay, so this is the cultural side. I should have kind of put this at the top. This is the cultural side. Now I'm going to dive into the ancestral side, which we're already in. But I want to be a little bit more specific about it. ancestral is a subset of culture, right?
Yes.
So our families have a history with money and with business, right? Whatever that is. And so, as we know through constellations, we have devotional relationships with it. If it in any way it was transgressive, if it was a severe loss, so there was trauma involved, grinding poverty for a few generations tends to have great impact. A variety of things. Theft. I have one person who has a really hard time accruing wealth, we've discovered ancestrally, because her Jewish ancestors had all of their wealth stolen from them by the Nazis. She's really in a very intense devotional pattern with them. And the funny thing is that they have, like, it's so strong they have the stories, the specific paintings and items and property. Other people don't necessarily have the specific stories in the way that their family holds it. So poverty, business betrayal, severe loss, living in an unjust economic system. Oh, for those of you who missed it, you were there last Sunday, so Friday, whatever it was, the last constellations. We had the parents grew up in intense Chinese communism and the Cultural Revolution. The meaning that came through to her, this went well beyond money, was how dare you have anything for yourself? Right? Anything. Very intense, because her mother was one of those people at 18 shipped off to a farm in the middle of the Cultural Revolution. Really intense business, right? It's the party, it's the people, which is the party. That's it, that's all that's important. Okay.
By the way, under colonialism, if you're in the third world, if you're raised in the third world, that's...
Tyranny of various sorts, dictatorships of various sorts, slavery, of course, is an economic system. All quote unquote illegal immigration, often like being less than a citizen for a generation because of the way you entered the country. These all have, it can have significant impacts. Yes, whatever economic system you came from can have a great impact. So I just want to speak to that, the family history, generally, what I just mentioned, leads to what's called devotional suffering. I know everyone here knows what that is, but I'm just going to do a bit of a recap.
Thank you.
Which is whenever there's a loss or a betrayal or a trauma that cannot be adequately integrated at the time for whatever reason. It's obvious in situations where it's big enough, things like a Holocaust or slavery or Cherokee Walk of Tears, there's no integrating it. That's just, but even smaller events like Grandpa lost his whole wealth in the Depression. That's not so small, but still. Some families got through that with kind of able to integrate or deal with the experience somehow.
But others have never recovered.
Others never, and it's not only never recovered, they couldn't, the only word I can use, and this is not a great word, they couldn't integrate it. I don't know how else to say it.
The scarcity one, even
Yeah.
though they might have a whole life,
Right.
the pattern of scarcity.
Right. So, I mean, just so for instance, let's go non-economic for a moment. The loss of a child, always a tragedy in a family. Some families can integrate the experience. They mourn it, they honor it, they deal with it, they help the siblings deal with it. The lost child has a good place in the family soul. And although it was grieved and it was difficult, it doesn't become transgenerational devotional suffering. It is dealt with in the locale of the loss. Other times, either the child is forgotten or the grieving never stops or the next child is named after the kid or, the various ways in which the family does not deal with it, or someone gets blamed for the death, then the resonance of the suffering is ready to be picked up lovingly and
It's
devotedly
interesting.
by the next generation.
Yeah, I mean, my second daughter was stillborn,
Right,
and I feel like I've integrated the experience. I got a lot of help and support
right.
over the years. It's starting to occur to me that my third daughter, who is incapable of getting her career going and bring in money and see herself in the world, is somehow
She very,
devotionally
She could be.
attached to this.
she could be. The children who follow lost children are extremely tempted to follow the previous sibling into death. Metaphorically.
Right.
Your daughter, I don't think, is in any danger of
I don't think she's
dying.
dying, but she is in danger of never fulfilling herself. I
Yeah,
was
yeah,
gonna
not
ask
reaching
her.
for life fully, out of
Yeah.
love for her sister who did not get to have life.
I am so going to bring her to you.
Yeah. Following a lost sibling is really it's a tough position. It's a rough one. So anyway,
A thought on the economic end. Grandma, while you're going shopping again, you've got 15 closets full of canned goods.
well,
You
and that's
don't need to
probably
keep
devotion
shopping.
to something else. Yeah.
The
Hoarding
de-
or
the depression.
hanging on to stuff is, yes,
Mm.
very frequently. Yeah. Again, an economic one could be a brother betrays a brother in the business. That's a good money and business related trauma. But if the family that got betrayed by that integrates it, deals with it, somehow copes with it, they, whatever it is that they do to make that happen, it isn't necessarily leaving a trace of unresolved suffering for the next generation to raise their hand for. So devotional suffering is simply, we get born into these families, and the energy of the unresolved suffering, loss, betrayal, blah, 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 is still present. We feel it, obviously unconsciously. We go, oh, they're hurting.
Mhm.
Oh, that's so difficult for them. I'll help. And then they take on a behavior, a pattern that has the impression of helping. At the same time, it makes them feel innocent and like they belong. Huh? Oh, so all those people who lost everything in the depression, I'll lose everything too. I'll be like them and I'll belong. It feels good.
Oh, yeah.
It feels good.
So the empathy anchors the belonging.
The other way around. It's the biological need for belonging. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. If you go all biological on this, you start out with the belonging. Bird always starts with the belonging.
So okay. Well, we'll talk offline. I find this
so
all-
biological need to belong anchors.
It doesn't anchor it. It's just empathy is a biological skill we have. It's the mirror neurons. It's the feeling. It's the
Yeah, but
being able to hook
I'm
up.
looking at all the ways that it kind of sends us off the road.
Oh yeah. I mean, the classic one is you're in a meeting. It's going just fine. Some guy comes in, and all of a sudden people are like, getting angry at each other and freaking out, blah blah blah. And afterwards, you find out that he was late because he had narrowly avoided a massive car accident. And he brought the energy of that fight-flight experience into the room. It's empathy. That's exactly what it is. Just ruined the meeting. And if the guy never mentions that he missed the accident, people will find, oh, it's because George was being a jerk, and it's because Henrietta wouldn't speak her mind. They'll find reasons for why the meeting went awry, right?
Yeah.
This is us in our lives, by the way.
Totally. I am the master of the story to make up and explain.
Well, it's the only thing we can do. Otherwise, we go crazy. Otherwise, it's
Exactly.
like, why did we all go nuts?
Yeah,
There's
exactly.
no, we've got to find local reasons.
It feels to me like I've got a sense make, otherwise I'm in chaos.
And that is actually true. There are two prime directives of childhood, as Carl Buchheit has it, which is to know the rules, aka belong, and B, to have identity coherence.
Identity coherence. I love that.
To be a self ongoingly. And so, if you don't make sense of what's going on around you, if you don't have a story, any story, a horrifying story like I am evil and I am a spawn of Satan is a better story than having no story for it being chaos for a child.
Yeah.
It's far more reassuring because you can deal with that being the child of the devil. That's workable.
No, people.
Right?
Yeah, people do not like
Okay.
chaos.
So that's devotional suffering. Children are great in love and small in understanding. They take it on. Okay. Here are some possible patterns you can have in business or with money over and over again. I'm suspicious of business and or money and can't get over the sense there's something wrong with it. Anything in which you have the impression of something being secretly in the back room wrong with something or with yourself, we're almost certainly dealing with some devotional stuff. I can't have money flow in. I feel guilty when I have it and get rid of it fast. I'm always in debt.
Hold on, you're going too fast for me.
Oh, I could do a million of these. These are just examples. I have a hard time being paid for my services. These are all possibly devotional patterns. So in a minute, I'm going to invite you into a meditation. This is a Family Constellations meditation. This section went longer than I thought it would. But just quick questions or anything about any of this. Really common thing for a certain subset of my clients is that maybe their parents are the first generation to be out of like grinding poverty. So they've been like hoeing potatoes in Lithuania for like 10 generations kind of thing. I had one that they were really, really poor in Puerto Rico for many generations. So that's a big one, is it feels like survivor guilt. How dare I have it well when so many generations could not? How dare I have it, not have to use my hands? Like, oh no, they're all kind of pleased. You have it better. This is the thing we want to just notice, that the ancestors are kind of out there saying, oh, for God's sakes, we're so happy you have it better. I wish the whole world did.
Yeah. I have a question, but I'm going to wait until the end and see if there is time. I'll ask my question.
Oh, ask your question.
Oh.
Now I'm curious.
Like yesterday, I looked over, I have a binder for the conference work, and I looked over and I realized I haven't sent any of my receipts from the site visit.
Okay.
And, I'm not going to get reimbursed unless I send the receipt.
Right.
And it's totally escaped my attention.
Uh-huh.
It's not like a difficult thing. I have the receipts. I just have to put them together and send them off.
Uh-huh.
And so when in all of this, in the ancestral thing, because it's not that happens over and over again. The credit card overcharge, I have to call them. I forget to call them.
Yeah, and we have complicated lives. It's dealing financially with our lives is.
But this is a very clear.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't know what to do with that.
Yeah, so there are many flavors of this. So I wouldn't seek to diagnose based on just the external behaviors. There's one that I don't think applies to you from what little I know about you. I had it for most of my adult life until about 2 years ago, which is that everything to do with money, finances, paperwork, insurance, blah, 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 was like for grown-ups. And I would lose tons of money just not getting around to stuff. So, but there's probably 3 or 4 different flavors of that not getting around to stuff. So I'd have to inquire a little bit more into the pattern.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, so I have a meditation for you. This is probably 10 or 15 minutes long. So do make yourself comfortable. You're all gonna get this recording. I see that Christina's over there dealing with a small one. So if you can't be hugely meditative now, you can listen to it again later and hit pause and all that stuff. So before you go into your quiet space, just think of an issue you have with your business and or money that you'd like to bring into this meditation. If it's kind of money related, that would be good, but it doesn't have to be. But it needs to be very clearly a pattern with business.
So you can do that one.
You could do that one. You could totally do that one. Yeah. It would be useful if you could kind of name it as, how would you name the pattern? How would you describe it?
When you send in receipts, when you reimbursement, right?
Is that the only manifestation of the pattern? Because you said it happens for a lot of other kinds of things too.
But it's always to do with reimbursement,
Oh, okay.
more
Okay.
or less.
Okay. So I don't ask for proper reimbursements. Okay, that's good. Okay, good. Everyone have an issue with money? Excellent, okay. So yes, close your eyes, find your center, do what you like to do to find your breath, find your feet, find yourself a little bit, just be with yourself. And I'm about to invite you, some of you have heard these before in other contexts. I'm going to invite you in a moment to imagine like a large gymnasium with the hugest set of bleachers you've ever seen in your life. It's like a mile wide and a mile high. It's just huge. And I want to say, for any reason the bleachers don't work for you, that's fine. You can use a hillside. You can use a bank set of clouds. I want you to see something that has a slope that's quite large in front of you. Bleachers are very useful for what we're about to do. So please imagine a large set of bleachers in front of you. And then on the bottom set of bleachers are your mother and your father, your biological mother and your biological father. And then on the next row, you probably already anticipated this, is your grandparents standing behind your parents. That's 4. And then please notice your great-grandparents behind them. And then on the next row, 16. On the next row, 32. On the next row, 64. Notice how fast the width of the rows is growing. And just a few more rows. You have over 1,000 people in a line. Really only takes about 10 rows or so to do that. And you're standing in front of them. You're the smallest one. You can be at a little distance so you can see, looking at them, and they're looking at you. These are your ancestors. It's like a living family tree right in front of you. And what I'm going to invite you to do, you're not going to know the story literally in most instances. Most ancestral history is lost to the sands of time. So as I ask these questions, just get an impression of this. Some people have this meditation and it's a little bit more explicit than others. Perhaps different colors show up, or some of the people raise their hands at you as I ask these questions. Or your attention just goes in certain parts of this very wide triangle. But just allow the field to manifest to you some sense of the answers to these many questions. I'm going to ask lots of different questions here. You don't have to remember them. Don't worry about it. So as you look at these people, please notice some different kinds of experiences of business and money that these people had in their lives. So the first one, please just notice the people, get an impression of the people who did well with money, whatever that meant. They did okay. Statistically, there are some. You may notice a few over there and a few over there. And then get an impression of the ones who experience deep poverty. Get an impression of the few places, there's probably a couple, in which the experience was wealth gotten at the expense of others. Notice the people who lost their work or had work that robbed them of their spirits somehow. Notice the people who had healthy work and businesses. Notice the people in families, money was used to create closeness and harmony amongst the members. Notice the places in which there was conflict in the family over money. Just get an impression of that. Notice the people who lived in unfair economic systems of one kind or another. Notice the people who had great wealth, but they suddenly lost it all. Could have been through theft or economic change or their own bad behavior. Sudden great loss. Lost it all. Notice people who had businesses or work that was harmful to others. Notice the ones who were able to use money honorably and generously with their communities. There may be a few out there who had far more than their fair share. They were in the 1% of their particular cultures, and they did not share. They kept it all for themselves. Notice any place in which there were betrayals around money. Perpetrations, betrayals. And then if I've left out any categories that seem important to you, just notice them. Notice the other experiences of money that seem important to you, that you're noticing the field is kind of revealing to you. Notice it all, and with quiet dignity, include it all. Include all of those experiences, including the most painful ones. These are your ancestors. It all belongs. You don't need to approve. Just allow this to be your family's history. Now allow your instinct to find a corner of the family related to the problem you chose at the beginning of this meditation. Just allow the field to kind of, place a spotlight or something on that part. For future reference, if you don't know specifically what the story of these people are, you might just note whether it was on father's side or mother's side. We seek to help or heal or include those who have suffered in any way by imitating it unconsciously in our own lives. Notice who you are entangled with. That could be one or more people. Who you are entangled with in your problem with your business or money. Notice you love them. Notice your connection to them. Allow it to become more explicit and clear. And then notice the love under the suffering or the violation that got blocked or distorted in the history. Some terrible confusion or loss, but the love that was underneath it. And I invite you to bow to them. You can either do this in your mind's eye or you can physically do it with your body. A deep bow at the waist and say, I honor the dignity of your fate. Thank you for my life. Bless me as I choose a different way. Say that inside your minds. I honor the dignity of your fate. Thank you for my life. Please bless me as I choose a different way. And receive their blessing. Hear them say, of course. Of course. Remember to breathe. Now, allow your instinct to bring your attention to parts of your family that did not experience this problem, who had a better relationship with business or money that you would like to have too. We often fail to notice that there are lots of people in our family who had it similar to the way we would like it. So allow the field to bring your attention to them. Ask for their special blessing on you. ask if they might help you have this thing they experienced. And hear them say, okay, of course. Bow your head and receive it. And then you may notice that there's actually kind of a nice connection, unexpected perhaps, between the ones who suffered in exactly this way and the ones who did not suffer that way. Watch them kind of turn their heads and look at each other and nod their heads at each other. They are connected. They both belong to your family system. Notice the respect between them. They both belong. And then look at the whole family. Honor their fate and accept your life from them with dignity. Notice how that feels. Hopefully what you're experiencing is a much more proper relationship with your ancestors. And hopefully you're feeling a bit of relief in there. Whatever you're experiencing, honor that and include it. And then gradually come on back. Allow the image of the bleachers to dissipate, even though your ancestors remain present to you at all times and are available in just this way whenever you need it. Okay. So, does anyone have any share about that or any questions or discussion about this entire topic in which we just did the simplest of interventions?
Kept disappearing into it, but hypnosis does that to me.
Yeah, it's trancy. It's meant to be. Yeah.
I held that question in my mind about the difficulty with the reimbursement, and I think that there was entanglement between my dad's side of the family and my mom's side of the family.
Did you get any clear sense of that? Like, did they get upset with each other about something?
Yeah, I think that I have no idea. There's the Germans and the Lithuanians, and so the Germans took something from the Lithuanians, and because of the entanglement, the Lithuanians never asked for it back.
Interesting.
And
I can feel that. I can feel that when you said that. I went, oh, I can feel that.
yeah, there's something there.
Yeah. And what I also feel in there, there's something of dignity at times in letting certain things go that we're in a sense owed. But as a persistent pattern, it doesn't give us dignity, right? We want to do it out of choice, right? Like, this guy owes me money, but I I know he's hard up. I'm just gonna let that go. That gives us dignity and choice to be able to do that. Right? Or this is just gonna create so much heartache and chaos and confusion and pain for me. I'm gonna let it go.
Yeah, I think it was that piece about don't poke the tiger. I think that was the initial.
Yeah. Okay. Nice. Okay. Other responses, either to the meditation or any of this material, and then we're gonna take a break.
I just find it very emotional.
Yeah.
And I come from generations of sort of professional class, but I couldn't in my living memory or that of my parents' generation or the generation before that really. It's like we've been living on way past money and it's in a sense been dwindling, but we've been pretending it's all okay.
Mm.
And then that last, I felt, I loved sort of making, one, when you asked us to make peace with letting go of a pattern that I was holding on to of my two grandmothers, it struck me that lately I've taken up two things that they would both really like.
Oh.
And I almost said, and I found myself saying to them, is that okay? I'm doing those good things. Can you let go of the money thing for me? You know, can I let go of, there's no bond with that.
Yeah.
I'm being devotional in these other two ways, which feel healthy and you love.
And which actually honors them.
Yes, and
Because
totally
they would turn and go,
honestly.
don't imitate the bad stuff.
Right,
The good stuff,
exactly.
silly little one.
And I felt, and I could feel their approval, which
Yeah,
was
yeah.
lovely. And then
Because that really honors them.
Yeah, and it felt nice that I realized that that's what I've consciously been choosing to do recently and not
nice.
made the connection. But then you said, think of where there's been some good or healthy flow. I can't remember what.
Yeah, you found it in the same place, which is great.
No, because then I couldn't think of any. But then I thought of two people, one who's worked his tail off to get plenty of money, but the other who literally, classic sort of out of the blue, received an inheritance that no one knew was there, right? Literally no one knew. They didn't know. A gazonking inheritance. And she's lying semi-comatose after a series of strokes, quite young in England. And for me, over the last few years, I've been saying, hey, there's a lot of anger there, Dad. You've got to talk to your sister, And then she's had these strokes. And the last time I was in England, I visited her and I thought, wow, she received all that money. And her husband died and she's had a stroke. It's like, whoa, if money is flowing, bad things happen.
Ooh, that's an interesting unconscious limiting belief.
Right.
Okay, so you have more to work on then.
Right,
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah. Obviously, given the way I started the meditation, we have more than one money story in our family.
Oh, yeah.
It's just whatever most sort of draws us, and there's usually one or two that are strongest for us. Solar, Christina, any shares or questions about any of this material?
Yeah, I felt like very few people in my family on either side had ever experienced joy around money. So that was one thing. And then right from the beginning, I saw like, I don't know, a Victorian servant girl. And I wondered if she'd been abused by someone on my dad's side. I couldn't tell, like my dad's side and mum's side kept on shifting. And there was one section which was people who had privilege and money, but maybe at the expense of others. And then the kind of 2/3 of it was, had experienced extreme poverty. And then the final juxtaposition was like, it was a sense of freedom, lightness, and joy, and with money coming and going, but always being safe. And then someone that had money but was in a privileged position but felt stifled. So those were the two streams that came out at the end.
Okay, nice.
So let's see what happens.
Really nice. Thank you for noticing all that. That's great. Yeah. Anything you want to add in, Sol? You were a little tranced out. It went in somewhere. We're
Yeah.
gonna trust it went in unconsciously.
No, but staring at things with the eyes open, what I'm finding interesting is I'm seeing the sea of people, but they're flickering in and out.
So again, you can listen to this on your own and do the meditation again on your own time. And hit pause where Leslie didn't wait long enough there, and stuff like that. Yeah, and if you trance yourself out again, you can come to it again. I really like the opening bit where we just kind of notice all the patterns and all the diversity, and then, include it all, just include it all. Yeah. So let's take let's see, we're at 3:49, 4 o'clock back, please.
Okay.
11 minutes.
Is it okay to open the door for a minute?
Oh, yes, please. And it went from chilly this morning to kind
I
of
know,
stuffy this
lovely and
afternoon.
warm. I knew that would happen. Is
Should
there
have thought
is
of that
there a
earlier.
fountain next door to fill this?
You can do it right back here.
Oh, right, okay, good. Thank you.
You got your super warm boots here.
I know. I
did
debated before putting them on, but I just get so cold.
I did that last night because I was going to the city to see a show and I knew it would be chilly, but I was in the theater and my legs were so hot.
Oh, I hate that feeling.
It's a good show though.
What was it?
I went to see Little Night Music.
Oh, at ACT?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to see that tomorrow.
Oh, it was spectacular.
Oh, good.
It was, me and my friend have seen a bunch of shows lately, and it was
At
our
ACT?
favorite by far. Not just in
Oh, general.
other stuff. We went to see Book of Mormon, and we went to see One Stone in San Jose, but Little Night Music it's an extremely good production.
Oh, good.
Yeah, do enjoy it.
ACT's been getting better and better in my opinion the last couple of years.
Yeah, my experience, they kind of do this.
Totally.
And I can't stand the theater, so I have to really want to go, and then I have to invest in the good seats, because up at the top, for me there's no point in even having gone.
Oh, really?
It's so high up there.
Uh-huh.
It really, and you're like this.
Oh, that's where I sit.
for 3 hours.
Miles up, miles up.
Oh God.
I can't. I mean, that's why I'm here, so that I'm earning enough that I can be comfortably where I want to be in the audience.
Yeah. But even where I was, which was mezzanine, which was a good seat, I actually liked the seat. Physically, it was so uncomfortable.
Well, they don't give you enough space in that theatre.
It's awful.
They were designed for midgets in that theatre.
I don't know how the men deal with
I
it,
know.
because as it was, my butt was probably 2 or 3 inches lower than my knees.
Ugh.
And if you're 6 foot, you're screwed.
Well, I always ask for an aisle seat so I can stretch my legs.
Yeah, smart. Well, we do Gold Star, so we
Yeah, I
get
like
the cheap.
Gold Star, yeah.
Little Night Music is Gold Star, but that means you kind of like
Take what you can.
take what you get. And it was a good seat. It was actually, I was very pleased with the seat.
Yeah.
The mezzanine there is fine. The balcony I can't cope with.
I know. I started going to the ballet again this year.
Oh, good for you.
I'm loving. I mean,
I
I'm
need to get
loving
back to the
that
ballet.
so much. It just swells my heart. But I'm miles away again, and I can't
We used to do
decide
that when
whether
I
to spend the money on binoculars or rather than pay for the binoculars, pay to move up.
Well, although, you can get,
But I feel
you
if I
can get
earn
opera
more-
glasses that are very cheap,
Okay.
that do the job.
Oh, really?
You're not gonna really wanna do bird watching.
Well, I
or
know I was
anything.
in REI looking at all that stuff. Thinking,
Oh, no,
just
no,
need
no,
it
no.
for the stage
Just, go online and get a really super cheapy pair.
of opera glasses as opposed to
Well, whatever, just
binoculars.
little things.
Yeah.
I've got a really cheap pair. I got, I don't know, $25 or something. They're old now. But all you need is to magnify it a little bit.
Exactly.
It's not like, I wouldn't use these for bird watching. It would drive me nuts.
Right.
Oh,
Oh, good. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
I did. It was quite the delight. It's a very good production. Singing was wonderful. A couple of performances not quite as strong as the others, but And the staging and choreography was just delightful.
Oh, cool.
The whole thing was it was a good show. I was happy about that. Even though last night I was kind of like, oh, I gotta get home and get to bed because I gotta get up early tomorrow.
Yeah,
Because
of
I wasn't able to get ready for today
Before
yesterday.
you went.
But that's fine. It was a good show. And we went to the Japanese place right across the street,
Oh, to eat.
Katanaya. It's very good. Ramen.
I nearly always go to the, I'm not since I've doing food, but I always used to go to that diner next door and have a grilled cheese.
There you go. Sure.
And
Well,
I
now
hate-
Jack in the Box is right across the street if you want super
Oh
cheap.
no, I hate Jack in the Box.
Yeah.
I'm not going that far. So did you put that clock there to keep it alive? or is
No,
it-
that's their clock. It's a
Okay.
useless clock.
or is it-
I've frequently asked for a real wall clock because the other rooms do,
Yeah.
and it is so helpful
I
for
hate
me.
training without a clock. I have.
Oh,
done
it's
really-
very difficult, and I used to use that, but I just check into my phone regularly. But that's fine for this kind of thing. Constellations, I forget about it for an hour.
Oh, right.
And so if I had a wall clock, it would really, really help.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, if there isn't a clock that works in the room when I'm working, I'm really in a bad.
I mean, I should have a
I was gonna
Watch.
say, I take watches for those occasions.
But I talk about ecology. For a few years, I buy watches and I'd like lose them or they'd die or they'd get broken in like 2 weeks. I just was going through watches and I thought, screw it.
Right.
I don't even like having
I
things around my
hate
wrist very
them.
much. So, when I was younger, I was an inveterate watch wearer. But I went through like 10 years of not being able to keep a watch, so I found
Got a lovely phone.
But for constellations, I should put something on my wrist.
So do you do a lot of constellation work with the people, your coaching clients, your money coaching clients, your business coaching clients?
I'll talk a little bit more about that at the end.
Okay.
But yeah, we do lots of mini constellations, which I love the full constellation format. I think it's a great tool for, kind of the big chunk patterns people are working with. And sometimes there's just something that's so obvious that's out of order that if you can just put it in order, it just makes a great big
'cause
difference.
I did a couple of looky loos, as Ellen calls them.
Yeah,
Got clarity around something that was really giving me a lot of worry, and
yeah.
the constellation suggested I didn't need to worry. However, had it been shown up that it was a worrisome situation, I don't know how it would have been resolved in that short.
Well, it might have brought out your inspiration or commitment to deal with it.
Oh, I see, that's true.
Oh,
Yeah.
this is something I actually have to deal with.
Yeah,
But we, in the business growth stuff that I do, we do lots of these mini constellations.
yeah, I love them.
Small, yeah. The trauma world has really given us the insight that I think is really useful, which is that to deal with big trauma-related issues, which it always is, you need to do it in smaller chunks. You need
Yes.
to chunk it in a smaller way.
You can't digest that.
I've become very suspicious of the big cathartic move.
Okay.
Not suspicious, that's not right. Because every once in a while, the big thing is very useful. But I do think that in certain constellation circles, that's the default. And I'm not sure about that.
Right.
And my suspicions about it didn't arise in the constellation world. It was at my old training institution up in Marin, where it really is kind of catharsis all the time. And I was on the receiving end of it and observing it a good deal, and I went, you know what, I think this is not a good pace.
Well, sometimes it felt to me when I'm in those situations that we're pretending it's a constellation, but we're forcing it, and you can't force it.
Well, there's that as well. Yeah. But just
Yeah.
throwing people back into their suffering and their trauma, and they're going, anyway.
I think we're a solution-oriented culture,
Mhm.
and so we're driven there in a
Yeah.
particular way.
Yeah.
But the aftermath of the trauma, it requires cleanup. It just does.
Yeah.
And the more you do there,
Right.
actually the more
Yeah.
you create the weight for
Yeah.
when you go into the.
Yeah. Nicely put. Nicely put. Well said. Okay, we all seem to be back. I have one last topic here that I'm going to move through a little bit quickly because I'm about 15 minutes past my schedule, but I think I'm fine because I think I left too much time for the very last thing. If any of that made sense.
I'm with you.
So, I'm gonna move from the change working kind of stuff to, oops, she just froze. No, but she's back, okay. To kind of the context of the nuts and bolts. So, you'll notice this was not a business training program today, right? I didn't talk about best practices around marketing. I didn't talk about developing a marketing funnel, which is a very useful thing to do. I didn't talk about creating business models or planning or infrastructure or all those things that are really, really important. And if you need any help with, you should get help with, right? Because these things can be learned, or you can hire it out, however you want to do it. Having said that, I'm going to go into one arena and drill down into it just a little bit because I want to model my approach to nuts and bolts, which is a little bit different, which is this word, reframing. So reframing, most of the people in the room know what reframing means. It means taking a situation and giving it a different meaning than it previously had. So you've all, been either on the receiving end or the giving end of a really good reframe to somebody at some point in time. They were really stuck about, their boyfriend and how their boyfriend's been so testy with them, and they're getting really triggered about it, and doesn't he really love me? If he really appreciated me, he'd blah, blah, blah. And suddenly you blurt out, but he did lose his job. I'm wondering if he's just under a lot of stress. I actually, oh yeah, that's right, I forgot, thank you. It's not that he doesn't love me, it's that he's under a lot of stress. It's a pretty simple reframe, okay? In some ways, all change work is reframing. Oh, it's not that my ancestors are perpetually suffering and I have to feel guilty about having a better life, current meaning. It's that they had great dignity in their experience that was so difficult and it is over and they want to bless me to have a different experience. This is a reframe, right? Reframes land or they don't land. Have you ever given someone a really good reframe and they fundamentally said, fuck you? or we're on the receiving end, I don't care how stressed he is, he can't treat me like that. If he loved me, he wouldn't let the stress get to him enough to treat me like that, right? Okay. And we've seen it and we're trying to bring that new meaning into the family system, but various elements are resisting that new meaning, right? That's when they get stuck, right? So reframing around business is a big part of what I do. because a lot of the common meanings that alternative practitioner coaches are often inclined to take about certain business activities is not useful for their success or their thriving. So, what if instead of one meaning about marketing is it's getting people to buy something. Okay, that's a meaning. What if the real meaning around marketing is to build a relationship and offer value? Ooh, that feels better already. So I do this is what I'm doing all the time for people. And you just need someone to sometimes do this for you. This is what I'm up to. And I want to do some reframing around one bigaboo. Bigaboo, one thing. Bugaboo. Bugaboo. That's what it is. Okay, so selling. So I'm going to run through this. She's coughing.
We can't talk about that.
Look at her underweight herself as we speak, the incredible shrinking woman.
So funny.
I'm going to just turn the camera for a second, Christina, so you can just see Victoria how it is.
I'm fine with selling.
I'm pretty sure I'm going to die.
Get it all out.
What's that?
Get it all out.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so so I actually want to affirm Victoria's response because there's some natural sources of anxiety around selling. And I'm going to run through these a little quickly. But number one, for people like us, this may be less of an issue for you, but if it's art, it's exactly the same context, which is we resist commodifying healing, right? It's the fears of commodification. Commodification. I mean, deep down, a lot of what we do is help the client fix themselves. That seems kind of nasty to be paid for what they're actually doing. No, I understand intellectually, but down in the anxiety place, the fears of commodification of healing, of art, putting a price on these things doesn't feel good to us.
True.
Yeah? So that's one fear. Another one is it can kick up issues of self-worth. We have any issues around self-worth. Am I worth being paid? Am I a fraud, et cetera, et cetera. Another issue can be safety. Am I safe? A reframe. Mark Silver, Heart of Business, said, selling is intimate. Isn't that a nice reframe?
Yeah,
And it's true. If it's intimate, it could be scary,
got it.
right? Depending upon your experience of intimacy. Okay? And the last one I'm just going to go into, which is fears around being inauthentic. Or shall we say, yucky. Yeah? You know, am I like manipulating someone? Am I making them? You know, those kinds of things that come up. This isn't me, this is not who I am, I don't like to be like that. Okay? So there are legitimate causes of anxiety. And I could list more, but these are kind of the big ticket items for folks like us. Okay, so what is the answer to this? Instead of anxiety, what are the resources or the reframes that will help us? Okay. Now this is a longer list. So the first one, another great Mark Silverism, is most marketing problems can be solved by telling the truth. So I will give you an example of this. Recently had a client, she had done a normal thing, which was a special on something. She had a special. A year later, she was still charging people the special price. And I said, that means it's not special, right? She said, yeah. She had gotten awkward about moving people into the price that she knew was the right price for her service. And she's like, how do I fix this? And I said, well, how about writing an email to these people and saying, you know what? I held the special too long. I got kind of awkward about it, and now it's feeling a little weird, but the service is this much, but I understand that by now you're expecting to pay that much. So I want to let you know you can keep getting the service until X date. That's it. And she said, I can do that. I'm like, yeah. Reassuring ourselves that we can do this work and be honest and authentic. That there is never any need in marketing or any other aspect of our work in which we would need to be dishonest or make ourselves to be dishonest in order to do what we've got to do. Another thing that's often recommended is advertise that you have only 5 slots open for consultations in the coming month.
Yeah.
Which is fine if you only have 5 slots left for consultations in the coming month, or if for some reason you just feel like you need to limit it, in which case, by all means, if it's genuine urgency, let them know it's urgent. But if you don't have any clients yet and you have lots of time, and you're actually going to take more than 5, you're just saying that, then you're putting yourself in this place. You don't have to do it. The good news is that this works as well as or better than this, particularly for folks like us for whom this is important. So number 1, you can be honest and authentic. This is a really big one. Dignified exchange. We are not getting one over on our clients. We're not taking something from them when we take their check. They earned their check somehow or another with their dignified work, and they've decided your service is what they want, and they're giving you the check. This is not a parent-child relationship. It is a dignified exchange between 2 equals, okay? For some people, this turns out to be a big, whoa, my God, I had no idea. Okay? Next one. This gets back to our previous discussion. Honor our cultural limitations. Be in good relationship with the realities of our economic system. It's about accepting that this is, consenting that this is, and also wanting to be well and thrive. We don't need to go down that one. This is a new one. I got this totally from Heart of Business. This was such a huge aha to me. So grateful to them for it. We are all needy. We all have basic, primal, existential needs for love, for acceptance, for knowing that we are valued, for purpose, et cetera, et cetera. These are key, important things. We need them. It's good that we need them. But they should never be projected onto our clients. Give you an example. Oh my God, I've got to get this client. If I don't, I'm not worthwhile. Therefore, the client has now become the bearer of assuring you that you're worthwhile or not. But people fall into this all the time. Remember a client who had a business for 8 years, she was doing okay. She's still kind of at that struggle place. And she said, if I don't get more clients, how do I know I'm valuable? And I said, oh, honey, did you just hear yourself? Right? So the question is, where do we get those needs met? My framework is we get them from the divine. We just get them by being, and we are reminded through our spiritual practices that we are loved unconditionally, that we are valued beyond, measuring, that we have purpose, whether, you know, we ever do another thing in our lives or not. Yeah,
Right.
it just is, right? Now, we're human and we forget it all the time, so we need to resource it. We need to be feeding ourselves with the sources that can actually fulfill it. So then we can just show up with our clients who are not there to provide us with any of this other than a $45 check for the thing we just asked them to pay for. That's all they quote unquote owe us. That's it. Yeah.
So while you've been talking through this, I've been remembering a book I was made to read as part of my master's called The Careless Society by John McKnight. And his whole thesis in this book is how, as a society and as a world, we have turned a lot of the attributes of being caring human beings into jobs. That 200 years ago, a village took care of its
Right.
own and so on. And so it seems to me that message got into me because, as you say, you serve heart-based customers. We're all doing things we
Right.
would like to do for nothing. Like, I'm managing my neediness. I'm not doing this for any other reason than that I love doing it and I know it will serve you. And now I'm doing it because I also happen to need some money, so I'm going to charge you.
So I'm going to correct that, and he may have covered this, but I'm going to just adjust that just
Please.
a little bit.
Please.
Because in cultures before that specialization, the caring was part of everybody in the community doing their part
Oh, that's
and
true.
somebody providing the food.
Right, that's
Right?
true. That's
Yeah.
a good point.
So as we cared for our elders or for the sick, or we got cared for, there, and this is in a sense an ideal, I mean,
Sure.
people were wicked to each other then too, of course, but ideally, it was part of a compact.
It's like a kibbutz type of
So
thing.
in a sense, we
Yeah.
were paying the tribe with our care
Right,
and being paid for it.
right. Thank you.
Yeah.
See, now
And,
that's
and there
helpful.
was someone whose job it was to make sure that we had the connection to the divine,
Well, there's that
or
as
whatever
well.
definition of the
Right,
divine.
right,
It
right.
was-
That's
it
Well,
was-
and in those pre-money cultures, the disenchantment, the separation from nature and the world hadn't happened yet.
Right,
So we just held it as a community experience. So we're living in a kind of alienation that they can't even quite imagine. So,
so
and
that
it
was
made
a,
possible, you know, creating art and making cities and electricity. I mean, if we hadn't had that separation from the all, we couldn't have made this stuff. So it's, you know,
anyway, thank you, because
Yeah.
that's a beautiful reframe.
yeah. And we've always been paying for care. We just didn't call it pain. We just called it the way the community does its thing,
Right,
right?
right, thank you.
I mean, in the best, even if we have money involved as a way to manage specialization, there could be a way of imagining a community that has that sense of balance to it,
Right,
right? Where, you know, it doesn't have all these funny loopholes where people can take so much of a part of it,
right.
yeah? Which is, this is the problem. It's the problem of power in many ways. It's just kind of in a simple way. Okay. This is a stance issue. I do a whole workshop on this, a whole 3-hour workshop, which is, I'm gonna write it for you, presupposing the okayness of everyone. And this is, so if I'm on a free consultation and I'm afraid that I'm gonna violate someone by giving my price, because it feels like I'm afraid of manipulating, I'm afraid of doing that. Or, I'm afraid they're gonna get angry at me if I share my price. There's a presupposition that one or both of us is dangerous for each other,
That's true.
that we're not in a safe interaction, that there's a potential perpetrator in the interaction. Yeah, if we go all constellation-y on it, right? So what would it mean if we step into the free consultation presupposing the okayness of everyone? That I don't have to protect myself against you, and you don't have to protect yourself against me, because we're good people, and we're basically safe for each other. right?
So in your 3-hour workshop, you help people. So I saw myself immediately as the what's it called, the perpetrator.
Right. Yeah. We work on it. This is called stand stuff, unconscious inner stand stuff.
Okay.
So yeah, we work on that stuff. You betcha. It's kind of critical stuff. Last one, and then we're done with this topic. I call this ecology in process. So you get off I use this because it's such a pure version of selling. The free consultation call, and you went, oh, I kind of disappeared when I asked for the money, when I gave the price again. I just my energy just kind of died and I waffled and I gave a discount I didn't intend to give or whatever. Okay, ecology and process. I'm gonna try not to do that next time. Yeah, this is an extremely useful frame for being in selling. Because for those of us for whom it does, there are people for whom selling is just fine, it's just natural, they got no problem with it. But for those of us for who it doesn't come so naturally, to allow ourselves to be learners.
And my experience is that a lot of people who they're good at selling, it's selling themselves that is why the ecology gets in the way. So, I mean, I can sell something else to someone, no problem.
Oh, yeah.
No personal entanglement.
I'd be terrible at that, actually.
Oh, would you?
I'd be dreadful at it.
Okay.
My worst job ever, it wasn't my first job, but it was, I literally, for one day, was a telemarketer for aluminum siding. I literally did the greatest cliche of all times. I've never been so close to wanting to shoot myself in the middle of a job just to get out of it. It's like, oh my God, I've got to call up another phone number. And, well, at any rate. So, terrible at selling other things. That's just, I can't. If I don't have a connection, if I don't have a heart connection to the product, if I really cared about the product, if I loved the phone or I loved the whatever, but I, couldn't get a relationship with the aluminum siding going. So this is just an example. So I just did some training on selling for you, okay? And then I can also talk to you a little bit, and given your context, what might be useful selling activities. So that goes pure nuts and bolts. But in terms of getting your way into some of these topics, I do a lot of this reframing of business. So you can think for yourself, if there are things you don't like about doing business, another reframe is planning. A lot of people hate doing planning. Infrastructure, same thing. A lot of people hate doing infrastructure. Supports you in your business. They support you. They are supports.
The planning is an infrastructure, but what?
No. Planning and infrastructure are things that support you in your business.
Oh, okay.
It's another reframe.
Oh, is it?
People are like, oh, planning and infrastructure. Oh, it's so boring. It's such a bummer. But good planning and it may not be a reframe for you. I'm just saying for some people.
Okay. I was just trying to relate it to the selling.
No, I'm not. It's a different topic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, I go through a lot of this, the basic elements of business, and do lots of reframing. So whatever you're like stuck on, like I don't like doing that in business, but I have to because it's part of business. Tracking your finances, very important. Having enough infrastructure, very important. Selling, marketing, having services, creating content. These are all probably going to be part of your business in one way or another. If there's any part where you're going, oh, I don't want to do that, let's ask what meaning you've got running about it that isn't true or useful for you. And is there another meaning you can come up for yourself? This is an invitation to you to be creative on your own.
So
this.
For a one-man business, as all of us would be, what does infrastructure mean?
Oh, things like spreadsheets, having things like a PayPal account, your email database.
List of clients.
Yeah,
Okay.
Client information systems. All that stuff.
I hate infrastructure.
Most heart-based people, it's not the first thing they like to do.
Planning, I'm okay with, but infrastructure, no.
Yeah, I have a friend who never remembers where she puts the checks that people pay them.
Yeah, there you
Pay her
go.
with.
Just make one box. That's there. Just put it right there.
Exactly.
Yeah, and my rule, because I'm not a big infrastructure fan myself, I'm not against it so much, but I'm not like,
You're pretty good about
because
it.
there are people who are early adopters. They like going and I have one client and she knows all the stuff online that can support business because she's really into it. She's got a program management service. She's got all this
Wow.
stuff, and my attitude is I don't have an ounce more or an ounce less than I need.
Mm.
And usually what that means, because I'm a medium adopter generally, I'm not an early adopter, I'm not a late, I'm sort of right in the middle. When the pressure of something not working goes on a little bit longer than I want to, I go, okay, it's time, I gotta get the blah, blah, blah. I've gotta get an accountant now, I can't do the finances myself, or whatever it is, yeah? So, that's been workable for me. It means that I haven't been exceptionally proactive, which can sometimes be useful. It's like, notice that down the road, I'm gonna need that. I haven't been like that generally, but I don't lag too long. I don't live in suffering too long. Because I don't like suffering. It pisses me off. Okay, so nuts and bolts. Okay, so I'm gonna shift gears here into our kind of wrap-up material, because it's almost 4:30. Everyone just take a breath. Lots of information here today.
Oh, masses, thank you.
Yeah. So I watch people flail in building their businesses. I just see them kind of like do the treadmill thing. And mostly it's not necessary. And to sort of summarize what I said in the beginning, is I do think about moving forward and building your business is about realizing when you need change work and going out and getting it, getting the nuts and bolts information you need, getting support in life generally for it, working on your sort of spirituality and alignment stuff, you know who you are and how to notice when you go off track, and then enough time and the ability to commit. Just find enough commitment for it. I have a few ways in which I help people with this stuff. The nice thing is that some of them are free and some of them are very low cost. Some of them are pricier. So I just invite you, and you know, I've named my competitors who are wonderful, and in most cases are way ahead of me, but of course they're also, because of that, they're way more expensive than me, understandably so. These guys, George Cow, Tad Hargraves, and Mark Silver at Heart of Business. As I said, George Cow has really great free sources. Tad Hargraves has a few, he doesn't as much as he used to, but he has a book that you can order for about 20 bucks called The Niching Spiral. It's a good book. It's about how to develop. You might be interested in this, Susanna, since you're in the place of I don't know what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then Heart of Business has lots of free resources, has a few nice free resources, and then a bunch more if you decide you want to become a community member for not much money. So I can recommend them all. They're in alignment with the kind of stuff I've been talking about. Wish I had some women to put up on that list, but I don't. The women I know are not quite in alignment with that.
Did you look at Dorcas Kelly?
Don't know her,
Okay,
so I can't.
okay.
And there are other people, like there's the Right Brain Jennifer Lee. I haven't really looked closely at her stuff. Don't know her stuff very well. The problem is that there's so many people out there doing heart-based business stuff, and there are ways in which it is, and there are ways in which it's not so much, just like what Christina was saying.
Mm-hmm.
So, wheat from the chaff here. So these guys are pretty tried and true. I like their work. So my services to people who are alternative practitioners and coaches who are wanting to build their practices or are somehow stalled out, the first thing are my free monthly calls. If you don't do that, please join in. I've got about 90 people who subscribe to this now, but on average, 6 people show up, which is kind of classic for teleseries. Just telecalls, free telecalls. I think some of the reason why people don't come is that they also get the free recording afterwards. I don't know about you, but I'm not sure I've ever listened to a free recording that I didn't participate in. Some people do, God bless them. And the thing is that then you're missing the live coaching. So basically this has it has the Heart of Business thing to start. So we're doing that together as a group. Then I do a topic for about 10 or 15 minutes. Next time I think it's resiliency in business, dealing with the highs and lows.
Which day, when do you do these?
One second. And then the last bit is open coaching. So you can ask a question on any topic that you like. And people get some pretty good coaching in those calls. Because what most of you know is I have an ear for the ecology. I have an ear for the out of alignment. I can feel it in the question. And often I can pretty quickly, do I've heard you talk about this problem with the workshop for the last 10 minutes, but do you want to do it? Oh my God, no. Okay, next. So that's the NLP training. It's being able to get the feeling for the emotional quality of what's going on. So there's some good coaching that goes on there. It is not always the same Wednesday. My apologies. It's middle-ish of the month. Wednesdays 5 to 6 p.m. Pacific time. The next one is June 10th. If you ask me, if you email me, I will send you that email each month that not only tells you it's happening tomorrow with all the call-in information and stuff, but will also tell you when the next one is so you can put it in your date book. So those are fun. They're good. I mean, they're a really good resource. There's that. That's number one. Number two, for those of you who are new clients or who are thinking about some of my pricier offerings, I offer free consultations, phone consultations. But if you've had one of these before, please don't ask for one unless you're seriously considering one of the larger things. Because if someone's thinking of a larger item, I think it's only fair to give them some extra time and opportunity to ask me all the questions. Okay. Oh, and while I'm doing this, you're writing it all down, but you don't have to.
Oh, good.
I'll send this to you, Christina. And you can take 2 if you have someone you want to share them with.
Okay.
And it's all on my website, as you can imagine. I mean, it's, I've got things in place, got things in order. And you have to give me one, just because I can't remember the details of the telephone. So on the page without the picture of me, I'm doing a teleseries this summer, which is 4 Tuesday nights, July 14th to August 4th. And I literally just kind of developed this recently, so I don't have a price, but it's going to be somewhere between $200 and $300. It's going to be in that zone. And what it's going to be is 4 weeks of business reframing. It's going to include some of the other pieces as well, because they're all intertwined. As you can, like, a lot of this reframing on this nuts and bolts included a lot of alignment stuff, right? So it's going to include the other, it's going to be a little information heavy. There'll be a little bit of exercises, but mostly it's going to be giving people the information they need to get a different relationship with business than they have right now. For people who really think that they can't be an alternative practitioner and be in a friendly relationship with business. So that's the teleseries that's coming up. There will be some kind of an early bird on that. So if you're interested, check in with me and let me know that you're interested, okay? And then the last, 2 last things, sorry. The next big thing, which for people who are local is what I recommend the most because it's the most punch for the money. It's like what we did today, but for 4 months. So that you really get to go deep and you get to get some continuity. The other thing, Christina, is that there's always one slot for a Google Hangouts participant. There's only one slot for that because I haven't been able to figure out the technology with constellations and blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
But, so if you're interested, you are also eligible. So this is the one with the picture on the back. It's a 4-month group program. This, I just gotta tell you,
Is the one.
this one is Leslie's genius. This is where what I'm figuring out about change in business is really coming alive. This is where people are having just huge change, coming into alignment with themselves and moving forward into their business.
Is that the one Josh did?
Yes.
Okay.
And it
which day
continues to do because for the people who graduate that, there are advanced options. So we want to keep doing the work.
what day of the week is this one?
Don't have that all down yet. This is October, as you'll see, it's October through January next winter,
February, yeah.
basically, February. The dates have been Thursday nights,
Okay.
but do not rely on that. Don't rely on that at all, number one, because my set schedule could easily change by then. And number two, if we end up with a group of people who don't have day jobs, see, I have to schedule it in the evening in case people are working day jobs. But if I've had one round where nobody had day jobs and we very quickly rescheduled to a day, but we had a fun day, everyone had in common, so it's a little bit of a question mark. Obviously, I'll have dates settled in a month or two,
How many people did you have in the last lot go through this?
So
Like
the one that
six.
started up recently has 5, the one before had 6,
Okay,
started out with 8. My limit is 12.
okay,
That's as big as I go because that's my capacity
right.
in terms of what I can do, because it includes 8 3-hour workshops every other week.
Wow. Wow.
And then it includes 6 1-hour coaching calls, just you and me. And that's the place where it gets really customized around your ecology, your issues, your business, your action steps. And then it includes some other stuff as well. There's email coaching, there's partnering, you get all the recordings, other stuff as well. Those are the 2 big pieces, which is the group work and then the one-on-one work on the phone that we do. It's a really powerful program. This is not only because it does such good work for people, but this is where it's like I'm figuring out how NLP family constellations, the spiritual piece and the knowledge about business piece creates a container for people to really grow. And last night I actually created this brand new, because I've been talking about this, but I didn't have an exercise around it. Because that's the other thing, it's custom designed for the people, so it's not a set curriculum. There's general curriculum, but I'm always refining it and I'm always coming up with new cool stuff. This bit about the cultural piece with money, we just did the coolest little threesome mini constellations, adjusting people's relationship between themselves and the cultural reality. And we tapped into some pretty cool stuff. Okay, so there's that, highly recommended. But for people for whom that's not the right fit, there is a 6-month private program, one-on-one program. But this has a coaching element. The 4-month program has a coaching element. This doesn't have much of one. It's mostly, I call it a healing your business program. It's mostly change work for you and your business.
So what's the difference between coaching and change work?
Coaching is, what's your marketing strategy? What's your first step? What's your second step? What's your third step? Change work is, I'm procrastinating. What safety patterning from your childhood is contributing to that? pattern, okay?
Okay.
Yeah. Coaching is much more nuts and boltsy,
Okay.
yeah?
Right.
So this one is really for people who feel like they know enough about business, really, fundamentally, but they're still stopped,
Okay.
okay? That may change over time. I'll just tell you my own process so you can see like what it is to be in business. I'm finding it very difficult to do these teachings one-on-one over and over and over again. It's a different thing to sit in a group and do a single teaching and get some of this stuff across. Yeah? Then we all have it in place and then we get into the coaching and we can just go to work. In this space, how much time am I going to spend doing all those lectures I usually do for 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 people, right? So the better thing here, because they don't have the foundational information for me anyway, and they have a sense that their business is okay, then I just do the healing change work with them. However, part of what I'm doing with this teleseries is I'm going to audio tape all of those lectures on the basic business reframes. So down the road, I'm probably going to be able to turn this into a proper coaching program, because I'll just be able to give them the audios.
Mm-hmm.
And then just leap into coaching as well as doing change work with them. But without that resource, I haven't been able to really make that into a powerful coaching program. So I don't try. I'm not going to try and sell something I can't do.
Right.
Because I don't have the right tool
Right.
to make that work for them. So this is what I got.
What are the price points on all of these things, roughly?
So this is somewhere in the 200 to 300.
Right.
The next round of this is going to be, I believe, don't quote me on this, but I believe it's going to be $21.95.
Okay.
Which for those of you who have looked at stuff like this, you know that this is way on the lower end of
Yes,
what
it
people charge for this kind of stuff. I know a place that for one weekend, they charge that much money.
Mm-hmm.
This one, I think, if I'm remembering, is $19.95. And I know that sounds crazy. This has way more content in 4 months.
No, but I was
this
thinking
even
that's
has in
not
6
very
months.
much for a 6-month private.
Yeah. So it's basically 1 2-hour session a month,
Oh, okay.
plus a half-hour coaching call, plus email support. Because the thing with the healing stuff, you can't shove in more than 1 2-hour session
Yeah.
a month.
Yeah.
It's just the work, the integration doesn't happen.
Right.
I have people who say, oh, can I come back every week? And I'm like, nope. I mean, I wouldn't mind the money, believe me. But there's a point where you do a nice piece of change work and something really happens, and then you come back and you try and shove in another piece and you actually undo what you did.
So, yeah.
So that's why that's the way that is. So any questions about any of that? If anyone needs referrals, people who enjoyed the programs, Victoria's actually talked to some people and is getting good referrals for the 4-month program. And I just want you all to notice for a moment, my selling. I was just selling.
Mhm.
Yeah. I was completely in alignment with myself. I totally stand by the services. And I think all of you could profit by it, but I would need a personal conversation to know whether it was actually a match or not. So, and some of you I know better than I know other people's and where they're at. And with Saul in particular, you've got a business that requires a business model that I know nothing about. And it is a different business model than starting some kind of alternative practice.
Yep.
There are things that apply to everybody, but there's a lot of things that, like the free consultation model, that's not going to work for you.
Maybe. My overall reaction when I heard about this last weekend was I'm already coming out of enough odd directions. It's a case of, oh, yes, something in the back of the mind was going, yes, get information on that.
Yeah. So we're going to have a final, but right now let's do a quick heart of business check-in. Remember, like we did in the beginning, the dyads?
Oh, yeah.
That was a long time ago. So I'm going to match you two, okay? And you can actually do it with Christina. It works
Okay.
perfectly well at a
Okay.
distance. So I'm gonna invite you guys to stand and face each other, you guys to another part of the room. And I'm gonna invite you to be about 3 or 4 minutes each.
All right.
You stand actually and stand up. Yeah. And we just do that.
You go first.
Then
I
she
feel
can
like
see
I'm
you.
looking down. on
Just
it.
moving into
That's
the
right, it just helps the constellation
Okay.
representation for you to be able to feel your body standing.
Okay.
And then you just, if you're the client first, you'll just like touch the screen and you go to the heart of business, she'll reach out to hers and blah, blah, blah.
That was what
And
I
what are you
forgot
saying?
to
It's
tell
an
you.
example of what's going on with the heart of.
Oh, there's no problem or issue here, you just wanna have, this is just a look-see at how are you in the heart of your business.
Oh, okay.
That's it.
All right. So shall I be the heart of your business first?
All right, all right. So,
Yeah. Will you step?
so
Yeah.
I'm gonna, here I am, putting my finger.
Okay.
Please
Definitely
be the heart of
something
my
expanding
business.
out, something, a field of bluish light, sort of. It's things shifting in and out, but that's what's coming to mind. Yeah, not just steadily, slowly, sort of, not so much slowly, but sort of steadily expanding out. Shifting, sort of like shifting as in, okay, nothing much there, but then something out there and so forth.
And what's your experience of Susanna? Report into her that. No, I'm sorry, Sol, your experience of
Yeah.
Susanna. Yeah.
I feel like I want to walk forwards.
Yeah,
That's you.
I noticed that, yeah.
Either or not
But
necessarily.
you step back.
No, I'm trying to step forward,
Okay.
the screen back so that you didn't just get back down because I was coming
I'm not
closer.
sure what else to say.
This is on a very low table. I don't think we can put it on a chair, actually, we might be able to, but anyway.
There's nothing higher here,
So
unfortunately.
Not certain
I
what
felt
else
a
to say.
need to go towards you. I felt very, very comfortable with your energy.
Okay.
And so then I was curious as to you being the heart of my business,
Okay.
how you were
So
feeling, what you were responding to me.
I don't remember what I do.
You're asking me.
Yeah.
I just feel like I want to
I
just
was
fall into you.
and
Yeah.
I realized that there was a certain
And I feel like I feel like I'll be caught
it's
by
not
you.
quite trusting.
Can you hear me all right?
Yes, I was gonna say,
were
feel
my
like
heart,
you've been what?
that you were
Yeah.
saying was
That you'd catch me if I fell onto you.
Oh,
you
okay,
said
okay. Oh, okay, so you feel safe with
but
me.
I could see
Yeah.
it was coming at it from
Okay.
some place of
Cool.
from there.
Yeah, I feel particularly comfortable with you. It's really tremendously comfortable.
And now I'm falling. I'm going back a bit. Let's see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can we switch so then it was easier for
I'm
me?
testing a distance. No?
You are the heart of my business.
Mm.
Yeah. So now I feel like I had to go away in order to stand on my own 2 feet, and now I can finally look at you. Whereas before, I felt I had to close my eyes and. Before I couldn't look at you. I was just trying to feel my body and work out what I needed to do.
And how do you feel in your body?
I feel very strong here, actually. I'm wondering.
Or you're gonna wrap that up in a minute.
All right, so
Kind of,
thank you very much for that
enthusiasm.
feedback. And,
My pleasure.
thank you,
And
thank
it
you,
kind of
thank
like
you.
an
So
optimistic.
now you ask me.
Yeah, so I say, are you
Yeah.
willing to represent the heart of my business?
And
Yes,
time,
certainly.
I felt that sort of constrained, that I want more room.
Okay. this point, I'm seeing a large square room with a bunch of tools around. And yeah, that would actually definitely fit. Lots of pieces to work with exist, but the problem is getting to them and getting more done.
The feeling wasn't that it wasn't able to function within the space.
I feel
Is it like
comfortable
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I don't
But I
feel
can function here.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm waiting to be
I'm getting
told
bits
what
of
to
stuff
do.
done, but it's case of.
You're waiting to be told what to do.
Yes, I'm willing and
Yeah.
I'm not really clear.
Was more.
Uh,
There is a sphere like quality.
how I can serve you. And,
Okay.
and I'm looking at you and I'm feeling like, this is my new master.
Okay.
Let's see, but I've no idea what sort of master you will be.
Yeah.
But I'm very willing.
Okay.
I don't have fear. I don't have any sense of rejection. I feel separate and I'm waiting.
Yeah, because I've got a bit of anxiety here.
Mhm.
I was worried about you actually. I feel better now that you said what you said.
Mhm.
Something very.
And I'm interested as well to see what I'll be like. That's something for me too.
Yeah, I feel like I'm a big box of treasures, but until you open it,
Okay.
I'm inanimate until you make me animate. I'm Pinocchio. I'm the wooden puppet till you bring me alive.
Okay. Mm.
Another minute or two. So now it's your turn.
How do you feel about all of that?
I feel like I'm a little kid. My body doesn't feel like it's my adult body. Yeah, which makes me think, okay, well, how can I run a business if I feel like I'm a kid? And I'm just trying to feel into or work out how much of that is just like old, like residue. Do you know what I mean?
So my sense is that the heart of your business will wait until you're ready.
Oh, that's interesting.
Right.
It's sitting in your, it's yours to have.
Okay.
I start to wrap it up, guys.
Too. Oh, wrapping up. That's interesting too, because I'm thinking, why am I waiting? What's blocking me? What's keeping me waiting? So that's really helpful too.
There might be stuff you need to do, that's all. That's okay. It's a very understanding heart waiting.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well done being awake still.
Different now, but 10 till 2 in the morning has often been my best time.
Oh, okay.
And I've just had a cup of tea as well. So
Okay. So here's
that helped.
There we go.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so last check-in. Anything you want to say that if you didn't say it before you left, you would feel like, oh, I really wanted to share that. And I'm curious about your main takeaway for yourself. What's your main takeaway? So just take a second and be with that. And of course, if you have any last questions, by all means, ask me questions if you have questions.
I just feel, I know that I sort of took the perspective of where I've been and just created a lot more room for growth, where it the reframe of the feeling stagnated versus feeling that I'm on to something. It's a very, so I definitely feel like I'm on to something. It's worthwhile and
Stagnant versus the seed needing to be ready,
yeah.
full of potential.
So that's a beautiful reframe, and just I feel like I'm gonna go over these notes. I actually want to put them under my pillow and see what happens.
That's so cool.
I love that, and just my experience of you and your wisdom. There is something about what you do, and you do it very, very often. You express an idea, you put it out here, and there is this that comes out of your mouth that it's incorporating all of us. Like, are you with me? And you check periodically that we are with you. That and it's just some way of being taken along the ride, that someone is checking that we are there. That feels very nurturing and trustworthy, and like you care, and that thing. I don't have the proper accent to. Did you guys hear it? Yeah.
No, I'm
what?
In NLP, there's a auditory tonal, that's called. It's a particular kind of vocalization, and I totally recognize it when you say it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
I likes it.
Good. Excellent. Along with all my ums. When you listen to the recording, you'll notice that I'm sometimes I almost can't talk given how much I But it's okay. What's the learning for you? What's the thing you want to share with the group?
Speaking of which, what comes to mind is I don't have something concrete I could point to, but there was a definite thought that popped in of, oh, that. So there's a distinct impression of something clicking together or something. I'm just not quite able to point at what it is, but there's that general echo of, oh, right, that.
You have the recording to go back to. We can fast forward over all the exercises and the breaks and stuff like that. It's not actually 7 hours. Christina or Victoria?
I've been talking all day. Do you want to talk, Christina?
Yep. All right. Yes, I've just found it, and this is what I wanted from it, really nourishing to just, be fed with a really similar perspective to mine. And it just helped to make my conviction that alignment is so key, and it's so personal and so unique, and that it's really what I need to focus on. Well, or just to keep on reminding myself that that's really where my strength lies. Yes, and then I was going to ask you actually, when did we ever do the exercise where we did me and the cultural economic situation, or was that for us to do after?
Oh, no, I was never planning an exercise for you guys on that.
Oh, okay, just.
Yeah, I'm sorry, limited time. I think I said if we have time, we might do it, but it wasn't.
Oh, okay.
We did not have time. Sorry.
Yeah, no, but but interesting, because I think that's constellations is one of the ways I think that you can dismantle systems by with them or going into them.
Well, the simplest version of it is a dyad, you and the current economic system, and you just bow to it. That's the simplest version of the exercise.
So so that was really, because I have my own takes on the economic system and why it's loaded unevenly. which are more energetic. So it was nice to get a constellations perspective on that.
Yes, yeah.
Because that is, I think, you know, I think that is it's so important, because I'm really tired as well of people saying, oh, you know, someone, I mean, how can you say that a child in, you know, a place where they're earning $1.50 a day picking up rubbish or for
Yeah.
tip, you know, so yeah, so both the heart of business exercise and, you know, your particular like exploration of reframing money, really helpful, really
Okay.
nourishing. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And then I'll just turn it one more time for Victoria.
Yeah, well, I've been sharing my feedback all day, so I want to say thank you. I feel you were very generous today. You gave us a lot of information, but also a lot of your own experience. So I love how you explain it as theory, but it all came from your own understanding. So it felt very real. You're real. I really appreciate that. So yeah, it always takes me a day or two to let these things settle in. It's like, wow, I received so much today. Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
The thing I'm walking away with is I'm feeling more and more confident that I'm on the path that I should be on. Finally, I'm finding a path. It's taken me long enough. And now my big concern is, you know, sometimes I feel overwhelmed about what to do now. What's the small action I should be doing? It's like I want a path.
Yeah.
And I want
a
a nuts and bolts path, because everyone I speak to who's in business on their own or not gives me their advice and their homework, and I'm overwhelmed by tons of, you know, but I need to systematize, otherwise I'm going to be in the same place a year from now. I feel like I need to get very focused about what I'm doing.
Yeah. So you're probably due for another free consultation, so just sign up for one and let's talk about that.
Okay,
and see if, you know, a 4-month program or something. The other thing, I mean, it's not in here, but I do custom design something for people because people aren't coming all different kinds of places.
Right.
I mean, you actually have a lot of business knowledge. I know you.
I do.
And you do have a lot of business knowledge. So do you, because you were almost sort of running a business for a while, very different kind of a business. Other people are like, they're really tabula rasa on the business. Sometimes what I can do is come up with a custom thing. Or the 4-month thing. I mean, October will be here before we know it, is the thing. Everybody already has a busy summer plan.
I'm just concerned I love today, but I know now I've got to start getting instructions, go away, do it, come back, what's the next thing?
Right, exactly.
Because I don't even have a mailing list. I mean, just tons of stuff I don't know.
So
we'll
shoot me an email. Let's talk.
So thank you is my main point for today.
Yeah. So anyone here who wants to follow up with a free consultation, because I don't think I've had some with any of you guys, and yours was a long, I mean, the last time we worked together was a long time ago. And you're genuinely interested in getting more help, so it would be my honor. So just take a moment and tune in to the heart of your business, but also the hearts of the businesses of the other 4 people in this group. And notice that's kind of a system. So we have 5 people, and we have 5 businesses, whether they're actually incarnated yet or not. And notice you're kind of glad that the other 4 businesses are there, or the potential businesses, as well as the people attached to them. And then notice that someone else is glad for you and your business. It is nice that it's not all up to us, you know, running the world is not up to anybody here, thank God. We just got our one little bit. It's a nice bit, it's for us. In, you know, the old tribal days, you know, you might have been the one who was good at tracking the game, or you might have been good at finding the hidden tubers, or you might have been good at making medicines, or you might have been good at caring for the children. And it's not fundamentally different now, not really. not at the level of the human. There are all these cultural layers that can be very confusing and very distracting. But fundamentally, we're all still depending upon each other in various ways that are really, really important. And this is beautiful. This is a beautiful thing. So we've each got our little bit. And feel the dignity of your bit. And saying fully yes to it in whatever way you can. Or I'm going to rephrase that. Say yes enough. For now. And give your assent internally to everybody else to do the same thing. Just give them your blessing. And receive the blessing of the other people here. And then notice your curiosity and ask yourself, I wonder what's next, without having to have an answer. Because this wasn't an answer-giving workshop, it was a question sort of a workshop. So just enjoy being curious about what's next. I wonder what's next. And we'll close it there. Go off into your, you go to bed over there. Go to sleep. And the rest of us will go off and have dinner or something somewhere.
Oh, lovely.
Thanks, Christina. We'll be in touch.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Good night.
Good night. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.
I'm going to hang up on you now.
Okay then.
Bye.
Bye.